I woke up in a body that wasn't mine, only to find out I was already the world's most wanted man. My sister Leah had just stormed into my study, threw a newspaper at me, called me every name in the book, and left. Real supportive family energy there. Thanks, sis. I picked up the newspaper and, oh great, there's my handsome face plastered on the front page. The headline? Something like, shocking. Viscount Clevener does unspeakable thing at Duke's daughter's party. Classic clickbait. I'd buy that paper myself if it wasn't about me. Here's the problem. The Duke's daughter? She's a minor. And apparently the old Victor thought it was a brilliant idea to confess his feelings to her. At a public event. In front of everyone. Now, I literally arrived in this body today. Zero memories from the previous owner. But try explaining that to anyone. Sorry, I'm actually a different person who just moved into this guy's brain. Doesn't exactly hold up in court. Quick background on me. I used to be a professional power leveler for an MMORPG back in my old life. Grinding accounts, boosting ranks, that was my whole deal. I just finished my 17th order that month after 7 straight days of no sleep and no food. Was about to cash out when, pop, I died. Just like that. Overworked myself into the grave. Real glamorous way to go. And where did I wake up? Inside a game I already knew inside and out. Same world, same lore, same everything. Except now it's real. Swords, magic, monsters, the whole fantasy package. I'm basically the ultimate cheat guide walking around in human form. The catch? I'm a Viscount. Sounds fancy until you realize a Duke outranks me the way a mountain outranks an anthill. And I just personally offended one. Cool. Cool. But honestly, I wasn't too worried. I've beaten this game's in-game content 100 times. One angry Duke is Tuesday for me. Then a maid came in with tea and a message. Gulleton wants to meet me this afternoon. My blood went cold. Gulleton, leader of the Royal Knight Order. The strongest knight in the entire empire. Late-game raid boss. The kind of character that made veteran players rage quit and throw their keyboards. She could fold me like a piece of laundry without breaking a sweat. Tell her I'm not home, I said, cool as a cucumber on the outside, screaming on the inside. The maid bowed, started to leave, then paused awkwardly. She told me, very politely, that maybe I shouldn't keep a one-eyed black crow as a pet because it's ugly and brings bad luck. One-eyed crow? What one-eyed crow? I turned around. There, sitting on the corner of my desk, was this chunky black bird with a single eyeball smack in the middle of its forehead. It was staring at me, rolling its eye around like it was browsing a menu, and I was the special of the day. Then it smiled. The bird smiled at me with human expressions. Hello, it said. I'm Hibika, an evil god. So to sum up my first day, I'm a scandal-ridden Viscount who hit on a child I've never met. My sister hates me. The strongest knight alive wants to chat. And now there's a one-eyed demon bird on my desk introducing itself like we're at a networking event. Great start. Really nailing this whole Second Life thing. Hibika. The name hit me like a truck full of bad news. See, I knew exactly who this bird was. In the game, Hibika was one of those gods you only ever read about in collectible lore books. Nobody had actually seen the guy, and every single story about him went something like, Hibika showed up, and then half the population died. Real cheerful stuff. One time he literally wiped out 50% of humanity just by existing in the general area. And now this walking catastrophe was perched on my desk, doing a little bow with his wing like a gentleman at a tea party. You can call me Vega, the crow said politely. I said nothing. Rule number 1 of every game I've ever played. When a god starts talking to you, shut up and don't agree to anything. Interesting. So you've heard of me, Vega said. Nope. No idea who you are. I lied with a perfectly straight face. Then the bird hit me with a bombshell. You're not Victor. Your soul isn't dirty enough. He stared at me with that single creepy forehead eye, waiting for me to panic. But I've spent years grinding raids at 4 a.m. on no sleep. My face doesn't do emotions anymore. He got nothing. Gods can see through souls, he explained, like I was supposed to be impressed. But it doesn't matter. I came looking for you specifically. Then he shook himself, and one of his feathers floated down onto my desk and transformed into a black piece of paper. White text started crawling across it like haunted calligraphy. Very dramatic. Very on-brand for an evil god. I read the contract. I read it again. Aren't you a god? I said. Time's that tough. Because this contract was absolutely ridiculous. If I signed it, I had to feed him, house him, clothe him. Does a bird even need clothes? And build him a church and recruit followers for him. More followers equals more power for him. And what do I get? Nothing. Literally nothing was written on my side of the deal. I've seen predatory mobile game monetization with better terms than this. The crow was just sitting there grooming his feathers like some kind of aristocratic pigeon, completely unbothered. Most of my power is sealed, he said casually. I need someone's protection. Sign this, and you get a god's friendship. Pretty good deal, a god's friendship. Wow. Can I put that on a resume? Will it pay my taxes? He must have read my expression because he added, almost as an afterthought, it could save your life. Deal. I signed that contract so fast the ink was still wet on the first letter when I finished the last one. Look, I'm not stupid. I'm in a world where a duke wants me dead and the strongest knight in the kingdom wants to meet me. My combat abilities are currently theoretical at best. If a budget evil god says he can keep me alive, I'm not going to haggle over the terms. The moment I signed, I felt this weird connection form between us, like a GPS tracker, but spiritual. I could sense exactly where this bird was at all times. Great. I now had a supernatural find my friends with a one-eyed crow. Vega hopped onto my shoulder. My sister was right. Keeping a crow as a pet is absolutely tasteless. But I just signed a divine contract. So tasteless is the new aesthetic around here. Now, the contract got me curious about something. How strong was I actually? I focused my mind the way you'd open a character menu in-game, and boom, a status panel popped up right in front of my eyes. Victor Clevener, level 39, HP, 1000, MP, 4900 level 39. A third-tier mage. Most old wizards spend their entire lives stuck at second tier, and the original Victor hit third tier at 20 years old. Genuine prodigy stuff. But here's the juicy part. The experience bar was absolutely stuffed. He could have leveled up to fourth tier, a holy mage, ages ago. He just didn't. On purpose. The original Victor had been hiding his real power this whole time, pretending to be stagnant for 9 years while the world forgot he was a genius. Because in the game's story, Victor Clevener eventually overthrew the entire empire. The Empress herself had to post a bounty and beg players to take him down. And players remembered him as that annoyingly handsome speed demon mage who's impossible to kill and also a terrible person. Somehow he was wildly popular despite being universally hated. The villain with a fan club. And now I was him, sitting on a mountain of hidden power, with a scandalous reputation, a divine roommate, and 0 allies. I stood up and headed for the backyard. Where are we going? Vega asked. I'm a mage, I said without looking back. Time to make sure I actually remember how to do magic and don't blow my own hands off. Take me with you. The freeloader demanded from my shoulder. Day 1. And I already had a dependent. Vega wouldn't shut up. Not for 1 second. We walked to the training yard out back, and there they were, giant stone targets, just like in the game. Players used these to practice skills and check damage numbers. Seeing them in real life was kind of surreal, like meeting a celebrity you'd only seen on a screen. Vega apparently mistook my moment of nostalgia for fear, because he immediately launched into a lecture. Magic is a very delicate art, you see. You must consider technique, efficiency, power output, blah blah blah. This bird had opinions about everything. He fluffed his feathers dramatically. If only I had my full power, I'd show you some truly magnificent high-tier spells. Sure you would, buddy. I glanced at my skill list while he was rambling. Everything was there. Every single spell the original Victor could use. I already knew by heart. Why? Because in the game, Victor Clevener was the final boss of Chapter 2. Every player had to fight him. And as a professional power leveler, I'd fought this guy hundreds of times. I knew his moveset better than I knew my own birthday. The boss lifts a finger, and I already know what's coming before he does. Vega was still talking. And you must pay close attention to magic circle construction. Chanting speed, I raised my hand and fired. Boom. A bolt of black lightning ripped across the yard and slammed into the stone target. Black lightning spear. Tier 1. No magic circle. No chanting. No dramatic arm waving. Just point and shoot. Vega went quiet. I didn't stop. Second tier spells. Third tier spells. One after another, like a fireworks show on New Year's Eve. The entire backyard was lighting up like a disco. Explosions everywhere. Stone targets getting absolutely demolished. In the game, Mages were nicknamed spell machine guns because players didn't need to manually draw magic circles. Every spell had a fixed pattern, you just triggered it and let it fly. And someone like me, who'd played every class in the game professionally, casting spells was like breathing. Actually, easier than breathing. I sometimes forget to breathe. Finally, I stopped. Not because I was tired, but because I checked my mana bar. Empty. Bone dry. This was the problem with being a boss character instead of a player. Players could stack gear and have mana pools in the tens of thousands. I had a measly 4,900 MP and burned through it like a kid with birthday money. You cast spells without drawing magic circles? Vega asked, sounding genuinely confused for the first time. I ignored him. Hey, don't leave yet. Your casting method is fascinating. Do a few more. Do a few more. What am I? A fireworks technician. I'm out of mana, bird. Then his single eye lit up bright blue, and I felt something wrap around me like an invisible cord connecting us. I opened my status panel. MP 995,099/999,999. I looked down at the crow on my shoulder. This cheater. This absolute hacker. He just gave me 1,000,000 mana points. 1,000,000. I went from running on fumes to having an ocean of magic power. I wanted to file a bug report. This was clearly not balanced gameplay. So naturally, I kept casting. For hours. Spell after spell after spell. The training yard looked like a war zone. And after all that, my mana bar was still at 90%. Okay, fine. I officially believed he was a real god now. Only a divine being could have this kind of broken, unfair, absolutely cheating energy supply. Vega nodded happily, apparently satisfied after watching me blast things for hours like his personal magic TV channel. So what now? Going to stand in the backyard all day? Going to the market? I said. Need to buy some stuff. I'm coming with you. Of course you are. You live on my shoulder now, apparently. I called for the carriage, and we headed into town. At the material shop, I walked straight to the counter and started rattling off a shopping list. Lizard dragon man tail, habby feathers, beetle shells, 30 different crafting materials. 1 bag of each. The shopkeeper's eyes lit up like slot machines. What a generous customer. 30 bags of materials piled up on the counter. The shopkeeper asked if I wanted delivery. I just rubbed the ring on my finger and, poof, everything vanished. Straight into my player inventory. My invisible, impossible, game mechanic backpack that nobody in this world could understand. The shopkeeper's jaw almost hit the floor. He practically bowed me out of the store. After I left, I could hear his employee asking, "Boss, who was that guy?" Don't ask. Anyone who can make that much stuff disappear without a trace is someone you do not mess with. Little did they know I was basically using a cheat code shopping bag. Even Vega on my shoulder was confused. The almighty evil god couldn't figure out where I put my groceries. Beautiful. Back home, I went straight to the basement, dug out a bunch of glass bottles from the corners, and started pulling up my crafting menu. Every player had a synthesis book, a massive recipe list for making potions, tools, and gear. Mine was fully unlocked from years of grinding. I started mixing materials together, hands glowing, sparks flying, stuff crackling and popping. Vega started trembling on my shoulder. His divine intuition was screaming at him. What are you doing? Stop that right now. Day 1, and I'd already traumatized a god twice. Once with my spell casting technique, and now with arts and crafts. This was going great. Vega was having a full-blown meltdown behind me. What are you doing in a basement? Making gunpowder. I ignored him completely and worked faster. Sparks flying, light flashing, materials crackling. Yeah, I can see how this looked suspicious. But I was just making health potions. Totally normal activity. Nothing to worry about. A blinding flash later, the empty bottles on the table were filled with glowing red liquid. Vega stared at the army of healing potions I'd just produced and grumbled, "You're truly something else. How do you make healing potions look like a bomb-making operation?" I smirked and checked the stats. Small recovery potion. Restores 300 HP per use. Beautiful. Nothing makes me feel safer than seeing hard numbers. This world could throw dragons at me, and I'd be fine as long as I had potions with quantified healing values. That's just how my brain works now. Years of gaming have ruined me. Vega hopped off my shoulder, flew to the table, popped the cork off one bottle with his beak, and chugged it like a frat boy at a party. He smacked his beak a few times, looking confused. "You really made this yourself?" I confirmed. And then the bird went completely silent, which was terrifying because this creature had not stopped talking since I met him. I could practically hear the gears turning in his little crow brain. Apparently, my potions were comparable to the low-tier healing magic of an actual healing goddess. He was trying to figure out if I had some hidden divine power. Cute. The answer was way dumber than that. I just had a crafting menu and a recipe book memorized from thousands of hours of gameplay. But sure, think I'm mysterious. That works for me. He suggested I sell some potions for profit. Nope. These were all for personal use. I wasn't broke, and I wasn't about to open a pharmacy when there was a duke out there who probably wanted to arrange my funeral. Next up, mana potions. My hands lit up blue, and I cranked out batch after batch. Every time I finished one, Vega looked a little more shook. Apparently, making items with bare hands was something even master-level craftsmen couldn't do in this world. He was starting to wonder if I'd awakened some ultra-rare creation magic. Nah, dude. I just have a crafting interface you can't see. Now, you might ask, why bother making mana potions when Vega could just pump me full of 1,000,000 MP like he did earlier? Simple. I didn't know the price tag on that little service yet. Gods don't do favors for free, even freeloading ones. Better to have my own supply. Trust no one, especially not your pet bird, who is also an evil deity. Then a notification popped up. Crafting skill leveled up. Current level. LV2 new recipes appeared in my crafting menu. I stopped what I was doing and looked up at Vega on the table. Just stared at him. Silently. The bird started getting nervous. What? You're basically a crow, right? Excuse me? I reached over and plucked a black feather right off him. He squawked. An evil god, squawking, because I yanked out one of his feathers like he was a chicken I was prepping for dinner. Dignity? Gone. The recipe needed a magical creature's hair, or feather, close enough, plus 6 magic conductor stones. Those stones were rare little gems that could record images, store messages, and even hold spells. People had tried stuffing attack magic into them to make grenades, but the magic leaked out too fast. And they cost a fortune, so most people just bought actual bombs instead. Way more cost-effective. I gathered all the materials and started crafting. Everything melted down into liquid, swirled together, and began hardening into a shape. Transparent conductor stones embedded themselves into the surface. When the light faded, sitting in front of me was a sleek, fingerless glove. Vega's single, I went wide. You can craft equipment with your bare hands too? Day 1. Health potions, mana potions, and now custom magical gear, all handmade in a basement. I was basically a one-man factory, and my business partner was a traumatized crow deity who kept getting more confused by the hour. At this rate, by tomorrow I'd probably have him questioning his entire existence. I ignored the bird and admired my new creation. The mage's hand. A fingerless glove with 6 transparent conductor stones embedded in it. The stats were exactly what I remembered from the game. Store 6 different elemental spells, instant activation, 0 casting delay. No chanting, no magic circles, no dramatic arm waving. Just point and blast. It was every mage player's must-have early game item, the magical equivalent of a concealed weapon. I started channeling different spells into each stone. Fire, ice, lightning. One by one, the transparent gems shifted colors like a mood ring having an identity crisis. By the time I finished, I had a rainbow of destruction strapped to my hand. Vega watched the whole process with his blue eye literally on fire. Store multiple elemental spells with no chanting required? How about you share how you made that little toy? Classified. Stingy. He grumbled about how embarrassing it was for an evil god to be begging a human for knowledge. If his divine colleagues found out, he'd never live it down. I didn't feel bad. My player abilities were the one secret I absolutely could not leak. If word got out that some guy could craft magical items with his bare hands, every shady character in the Empire would come knocking, and my front door had already seen enough trouble for one lifetime. After a while I got bored, so I grabbed a book and started reading. The following content has been blocked by the evil god Habika using psychic interference. Content not visible. Yeah, so apparently an entire chunk of my day just got censored by my own pet bird. Even the narrator couldn't see what happened. Thanks, Vega. Very helpful. Love the privacy violations. Content block lifted. Next thing I knew, I was standing in a library. Looked exactly like the one from the game. I picked up a random book and flipped it open. Immediately, a dialogue box popped up in front of my eyes. Learn tier. 1 spell. Rolling fireball? Required materials. Flame flower, habby feather this. This was why I'd bought 30 bags of crafting materials earlier. They weren't just for making potions and gear. They were also the currency for learning new spells at the library. In the game, most players had to go out into the wilderness and kill monsters to farm these materials. Dangerous, time-consuming, exhausting. Me? I just bought them at a shop. With money. Like a normal person going grocery shopping. Being a wealthy Viscount had exactly one perk, and I was abusing it shamelessly. Why grind when you can swipe a credit card? I went absolutely feral in that library. Spell after spell after spell. Every first-tier magic book on the first floor, I learned it. Rolling fireball? Learned. Ice shard? Learned. Windblade? Learned. Some weird spell I didn't even remember existing? Learned. I burned through almost all my materials and over half my gold reserves in one afternoon. My wallet was crying. My spell list was thriving. Fair trade. By the time the golden sunset started pouring through the library windows, I'd basically graduated from Magic University with honors in every subject simultaneously. But then I noticed something. Deep in the back of the library, a light was flickering. Someone else was here. I followed the glow through the shelves, curious who else was studying this late. And there she was, a woman with short hair resting on her shoulders. Her eyes were a striking fluorescent yellow, glowing faintly in the dim lamplight. She sat at a desk, pen in hand, writing furiously like she was trying to finish a term paper due 5 minutes ago. I stopped and stared. Day 1 wasn't over yet, and the universe was clearly not done throwing surprises at me. The following content has been blocked by the evil god Habika using psychic interference. Content not visible. You know what? I'm starting to think Vegas censors my life on purpose just to mess with me. Entire conversations gone. Whole scenes wiped. I'm living in a movie where someone keeps cutting to the next scene right when things get interesting. Content block lifted. So before that happens, don't overwork yourself. I was mid-conversation with a girl named Henny, apparently. She was beaming at me like I'd just handed her a promotion and a puppy. I won't let you down. Okay, so here's what I gathered. Henny was a teaching assistant at the Royal Magic Academy, where I apparently now worked. As a professor, I think. Look, the censored parts would have been real helpful here, but someone decided to scramble my narrator privileges. I asked her why someone as clearly talented as her was stuck being a lowly assistant. Her eyes dimmed for a second. I graduated from the Royal Magic Academy, but I never managed to become even a first-tier mage. So I stayed on as a volunteer teaching assistant. Classic tragic backstory. All the skill, none of the magical talent. The other professors all had their favorite assistants picked out already, and nobody wanted the girl who couldn't cast a basic spell. She was like that one overqualified intern nobody bothers to hire full-time. I patted her shoulder. Work hard. The academy wouldn't keep you around if you weren't worth something. Then, because I am a master of disguise and deception, I casually asked, since I just got here, mind showing me around? She panicked into agreement and started frantically tidying her desk. Now, did I actually need a tour? Absolutely not. I'd been to this academy so many times in-game I could draw the floor plan blindfolded. I knew the dean had a secret garden behind his office. I knew which hallway had a wobbly tile. I probably knew this place better than the architect who built it. But here's the thing. Henny was basically doing my job. The work that should have been mine was now entirely on her shoulders, and that made me feel a tiny bit guilty. Emphasis on tiny. Because on the flip side, having someone else do all my work while I strolled around pretending to be a clueless newbie? Absolutely delightful. Who doesn't love getting paid to do nothing? Henny walked me through everything. Gardens, lawns, training grounds. She explained each building with genuine enthusiasm, like a tour guide who actually loved her job. I nodded along at every stop, pretending to be fascinated by places I could navigate in my sleep. Then we reached the arcane hall, and I stopped. This was the PvP arena in the game, where players dueled and practiced spells. But right now, I could feel something wrong coming from inside. A dangerous magical backflow. Someone in there was running a very risky experiment. The arcane hall was for learning magic. Controlled practice. What was happening inside was anything but controlled. I frowned and suddenly felt deep sympathy for every strict school principal I'd ever hated growing up. When you're responsible for students, you realize brats need supervision. Magical brats need supervision and a fire extinguisher. I pushed the door open. Inside, I found chaos. Erica, blonde hair, foul mood. Apparently someone I'd already had a run-in with during one of Vega's convenient censorship episodes, was having the worst day of her life. From what I could piece together, she'd tried to mess with me. I'd somehow turned it around on her, and in the process, she'd lost her favorite hair clip inside a teleportation magic circle. Not just any hair clip, it was a gift from her mother. Sentimental value through the roof. So naturally, her brilliant plan was to come to the arcane hall alone and try to crack the teleportation spell I'd apparently tampered with. Over and over and over. Explosion. Failure. Explosion. Failure. She grabbed her golden hair in frustration. This is so annoying. Why won't IT work? Each attempt made her more reckless, more sloppy. And then, inevitably, she made a big mistake. How big? The following content has been blocked by the evil god Habika using psychic interference. Content not visible, of course. Right at the good part. Every single time. Vega, if you're listening, and I know you are because you live on my shoulder, I will pluck you bald in your sleep. So my sister came back, and she was not happy. Leah slapped a financial report on my desk like a lawyer presenting evidence at a murder trial. I looked it over calmly. Numbers, expenses, balances, all pointing to one conclusion. We were broke. Well, not broke, but the stop spending money immediately or we will be kind of broke. Leah, I said, cool as ever. What are our territory's income sources? She tilted her head and squinted at me like I'd just asked what color the sky was. You're the lord of this territory, and you don't know where your own money comes from, she laughed. Not a warm laugh. The kind of laugh that says, I am surrounded by idiots and the biggest one shares my last name. Listen carefully. The Clevener territory makes money from grain sales and mining. That's it. That's the whole business. She broke it down for me. Turns out, our family's territory was actually pretty sweet. Fertile land, surrounded by lush forests, only a day's carriage ride from the capital. The empire's second most prosperous town sat right in our backyard, and we had a fat mineral vein that could keep producing for another 50 years. Location? Premium. Agriculture? Booming. Mining? Literally sitting on treasure. The Clevener family was basically set up to print money. But, Leah said, and that, but hit like a sledgehammer. The mines have been producing way less lately, and it's not harvest season yet. The grain we've been selling was last year's surplus from the storehouse. Her voice was getting sharper with every sentence. We still need grain to feed our own people. We can't sell it all. Revenue is down, and at this critical moment, you're out there spending like a maniac. Fair point. I had kind of blown through a mountain of cash buying 30 bags of crafting materials and learning every spell in the library yesterday. In my defense, it was a really productive shopping spree. Do you feel even a shred of guilt? She demanded. I did not. My face showed nothing. Absolute poker face. Years of gaming had trained me for exactly this moment, being yelled at while feeling zero remorse. Leah stared at me like she was watching a nature documentary about a species she couldn't understand. I rubbed my chin and said, hire a few mages. Buy a storefront in the busiest part of the capital. Open a magic item shop, she exploded. Victor, did you hear a single word I just said? You think magic shops are rare in the capital? Even if you open one, what makes you think your name will outcompete every established merchant? Do you even know how business works? She was getting more heated by the second. And honestly, I got it. Their parents died, and since childhood, Leah had been the one running the entire territory by herself. For over 10 years, she'd kept everything afloat through sheer willpower and good management. Meanwhile, the original Victor was out there being a deadbeat, blowing money, chasing girls, and generally being useless. And now this same useless brother was telling her how to run the family business? I could see why she wanted to strangle me. Her eyes were actually getting watery. Not from sadness, from pure, concentrated frustration accumulated over a decade of babysitting her disaster of a brother. Words weren't going to fix this, so I did the only thing that could. I waved my hand, and 50 bottles of shimmering blue mana potions materialized on the table between us. Leah froze mid-rant. Her mouth was still open, but no sound came out. She stared at the potions like they'd fallen from heaven. What are these? See, here's the thing about this world. Mana recovery items existed, but they were insanely rare and stupidly expensive. and the market only had healing potions, slow-acting ones that worked like actual medicine, gradually patching you up over time. My potions? Instant recovery. Drink one, full mana bar, done. In game terms, totally normal. In real-world terms, completely broken. A game item brought into reality was basically a cheat code with a cork on it. Even a tiny instant recovery mana potion would be considered a legendary artifact in this world. I didn't bother explaining. Coming from my mouth, it would sound insane. Better to let the product speak for itself. Go hire some mages, I said flatly. Have them cast spells until they're completely drained. Then give them one bottle. After that, you'll know exactly what to do. Leah stood there, surrounded by glowing blue bottles, her brain visibly short-circuiting as it tried to process what just happened. Day 2, and I'd already gone from family embarrassment to guy who might accidentally revolutionize the entire magical economy. Not bad for a deadbeat. Leah took the potions, but she looked at me like I'd handed her a box that might contain either gold or a live snake. By the way, I asked, do you have any help? Bodyguards, assistants, anyone? She smirked. Oh wow, our great lord has learned to care about other people? What a historic day. I let the sarcasm bounce off me. The original victor had earned every ounce of her contempt. This was his debt, and I was paying the interest. Seriously, your trade caravans. Do you hire protection? She snorted. No, I don't trust anyone. So let me get this straight. My little sister had been running the entire family business solo, traveling a full day's journey between the territory and the capital, alone, for over 10 years, with no backup. Isn't the road dangerous? She seemed genuinely surprised I was asking. She twirled a strand of hair around her finger and looked away, clearly not used to brotherly concern from the guy who'd spent the last decade being a human dumpster fire. It's fine. We have established trade routes. If bandits show up, we flash the Clevener family crest, and they back off. Never had any real trouble. Good enough for now. But I wasn't sending her to the capital with revolutionary potions and zero protection. So I took off the mage's hand glove and held it out. Leah, listen. This trip is different. These potions will attract attention. Where this, it'll handle emergencies. She stared at the glove, then at me, looking conflicted. Not about the glove itself, mind you. Don't overthink it. It auto-adjusts to your hand size. She took it. I noticed her fingers brushed the spots still warm from my hand, and she quickly shoved it on like it was burning her. Then she touched the gemstones, and her merchant brain kicked in instantly. Those were conductor stones. She knew what conductor stones were worth. Each one was valued at over 1 million coins. I had put 6 of them on a glove. I could practically hear her internal screaming. But miraculously, she didn't yell at me this time. Open your palm toward me, I instructed. Focus on any gemstone with your mind. She aimed her palm at me and thought about the pretty green one. Whoosh! A magic circle exploded from her palm, and a hurricane ripped through the study. Papers went flying. Books tumbled off shelves. The wind kept growing larger and more violent. I calmly tapped the desk, opened a teleportation circle, and sucked the entire storm into it before it could demolish my house. Silence. Then, from somewhere outside, a massive crack echoed across the landscape. Probably a hillside. Probably used to be a hillside. Leah stood frozen, hand still out, brain completely offline. That was? Tier 2 spell, Raging Tempest. Strong enough to flatten a mountain. Maybe don't do that indoors next time. She was shell-shocked. She'd never cast magic in her life, and her first spell had nearly renovated the entire study into an open-air patio. So that's what casting magic feels like, she whispered, staring at her own hand like it belonged to someone else. I recharged the glove and gave her the safety briefing. Each stone is one use. Don't accidentally activate one unless you mean it. When they're empty, come back and I'll refill them. I could see the gears turning. Her merchant instincts were screaming, sell this for a fortune. But then she remembered my serious tone and the fact that this thing could literally save her life, and she shut that thought down. Thank you, she mumbled, looking away like the words physically hurt her to say. Then she grabbed the potions and bolted out the door. After she left, Vega spoke up from my shoulder. Giving away something that valuable doesn't bother you. It's just an item. I can make another one whenever I want. And I don't really need it right now. The mage's hand was mainly a PvP tool, amazing for player duels where you needed instant cast surprise attacks. For my current daily life of grading papers, and avoiding angry dukes? Not essential. I could hear Vega's little crow brain scheming. He was definitely trying to figure out how to con me into making him one too. Good luck, bird. I see you. Next morning, I was getting dressed to head to the academy when a servant walked in. My lord, there's a young woman outside. She says she's your teaching assistant, here to deliver notes and your lecture script. I paused mid-button. Henny? I definitely did not tell her to deliver anything to my house. I let her in anyway, and what walked through my door was a zombie. Dark circles under her eyes so deep they looked like bruises. Face pale as paper, barely standing upright. What happened to you? Did you sleep at all? She perked up like a startled puppy. Oh no, Professor, I'm fine. I just forgot to sleep last night and wrote your lecture script until morning. She forgot to sleep and spent the entire night writing MY speech. For MY class. I wanted to scold her, but honestly, how do you yell at someone who looks like a ghost that's been through a washing machine? It would be like kicking a kitten. Have you eaten breakfast? She shook her head. Of course not. No sleep and no food. This girl was speedrunning self-destruction. I waved a servant over. Take her to eat. Then set up a room so she can rest. Henny started stammering. Oh no, I couldn't possibly eat. Sleep. Now, she wilted like a flower in a drought and shuffled away with the servant, head hanging low, zero resistance left in her tiny, exhausted body. My house is huge. There are plenty of rooms. Letting an overworked assistant take a nap wasn't charity. It was basic human decency, something the original Victor apparently never practiced. I changed my plans. Class wasn't until the afternoon anyway, so I settled into the study to review Erica's homework and my lecture notes. While I was grading, I asked Vega without looking up, "What do you think of that girl?" He blinked. "Which one? You wanted me to recruit followers for you, right?" I stretched, tapped the desk, and turned to him with a lazy half-smile. My eyes narrowed just a bit, the kind of look that says, I'm about to do something clever and slightly terrible. A naive, hard-working, trusting girl like that? She's perfect recruitment material. Vega stared at me. Day 2, and I was already planning to convert my innocent assistant into the first disciple of an evil crow god. The original Victor was a villain, sure, but I was starting to think I might be worse. At least he was honest about being terrible. I was going to be terrible with a smile. You think recruiting followers is just sweet-talking people? Vega lectured. They have to believe sincerely. Fake faith doesn't count. I tapped the desk, watching the morning sunlight fall on my books, and smiled. Sincerity? Don't worry. I can make anyone believe anything. Vega made this low growling noise, which I learned was Crow 4. I disapprove, but can't stop you. You might be even more devious than the original Victor. Thank you. Speaking of Vega, I'd noticed something concerning. Since signing our contract, this so-called evil god had completely abandoned his grand revival plan. His daily routine was eat, sleep, occasionally judge me. That was it. He'd gotten visibly fatter in just a few days. When he sat on my shoulder now, I could feel the extra weight. He was less terrifying deity and more overfed office bird. But hey, if he wasn't worried about his own career, why should I be? I spent a quiet morning grading Erica's homework and memorizing my lecture notes, which Henny had prepared so thoroughly I barely had to think. That girl was worth her weight in gold, which made her even more perfect for my secret plan, but we'll get to that. Around noon, Henny emerged from the guest room rubbing her eyes like a baby bear waking from hibernation. Ready? We're heading out, I said. She snapped awake like someone had poured cold water on her. Yes, absolutely. Completely ready, Professor. I called for the carriage and invited her to ride along. She climbed in looking like I'd asked her to sit in a lion's den. Then we sat facing each other, and she absolutely could not handle it. Head down, staring at her shoes, sneaking tiny glances at me when she thought I wasn't looking. Her face was turning red. I could practically hear her heartbeat from across the carriage. Inside her head was probably something like, I'm in a carriage with the genius Professor Victor. I slept at his house. Oh God. Oh. I thought about saying something reassuring, but honestly, anything I said would make it worse. So I just watched her spiral. It was genuinely entertaining. The entire ride, not one word spoken. Just her staring at her shoes, and me watching her panic in perfect silence. When we finally arrived, she let out the deepest breath I'd ever heard from a human being. Finally, you'd think we'd traveled across the continent instead of taking a short carriage ride. At the academy, Henny told me the dean wanted to see me. so I headed up to his office. The dean was an old, chubby man draped in magical trinkets and accessories like a walking Christmas tree. He looked exactly like what you'd imagine a stereotypical wizard looks like. But appearances aside, this man was a fourth-tier holy mage, a living legend. He'd reached that rank 20 years ago, which in this world was like being an Olympic gold medalist who never retired. He was also so ancient that putting down a pen seemed to exhaust him. "Professor Victor," he wheezed, leaning back in his chair. "I heard about yesterday's class." I tensed. So the Erica incident had reached the principal's office already. "Great. You handled it well," he smiled. "But perhaps a bit too strict? Students might complain eventually. If I'm not strict, they'll never learn respect," I said flatly. He considered this, then nodded approvingly. Respect for teachers. Well said. Expected nothing less from a genius mage. Then he handed me a scroll. The academy wanted to host a public lecture. My lecture, in 1 month. Thousands of attendees. Recorded on conductor stones and broadcast everywhere. A massive PR event right before new student enrollment season. I immediately understood the play. The academy wanted to dangle their shiny young third-tier professor in front of prospective students like bait. "Look, we have a genius. Come study here." My bad reputation didn't matter. Results did. And for me, this was even better. A successful public lecture would bury that newspaper scandal completely. Nobody cares that a powerful professor once flirted with a duke's daughter when he's giving groundbreaking magical presentations to thousands. It would also lock in my position at the academy, giving me connections and protection for the dangerous years ahead. "I'm in. Whatever the academy needs," I said. The dean smiled and glanced at Henny. "And the assistant?" "Satisfactory." I looked at Henny, who was trembling beside me like a chihuahua at a vet's office. "Having such a dedicated assistant is my honor." Henny nearly passed out from joy on the spot. As we left, I could see her walking with an actual spring in her step. She was practically skipping, all because I said one nice sentence about her in front of the dean. This girl's happiness threshold was dangerously low. Perfect for recruitment. But I digress. Afternoon class went smoothly. No troublemakers this time. Word had spread about yesterday, and nobody wanted to be my next example. Even Erica was on her best behavior, head down, taking notes furiously. After class, I called Erica to my office and returned her graded homework. Gave her tips on teleportation magic. We were surprisingly civil. Neither of us mentioned the birthday party incident. It was like an unspoken treaty. I won't bring it up, you won't bring it up, and we'll both pretend it never happened. What Erica didn't know was that most of my brilliant teaching came directly from Vega whispering answers in my ear like a magical cheat sheet. Having a walking encyclopedia evil god as your co-teacher made everything embarrassingly easy. She asked if she could come for extra tutoring in the future. "We'll see. I'm busy, but if I have time, sure." Translation: I clock out at exactly quitting time and refuse to do overtime. Ever. Then, mid-sentence, I felt something. The mage's hand. Someone had activated one of the spells. Leah. She'd used the glove. I gave it to her yesterday, and she already needed it? The magical signature wasn't far from the capital. I decided to check it out. Something came up. "Lock the door when you leave," I told Erica, then drew a teleportation circle on the floor and vanished. Erica stared at the empty space where I'd been standing. Fair reaction. I arrived at the outskirts to find a scene that was equal parts horrifying and hilarious. Leah was sitting on a rock, looking mildly inconvenienced. Behind her, a group of hired mages were shaking like leaves. And in front of her, a pile of bandits. Charcoal. Crispy. Extra well done. No survivors. Apparently, some idiots had attacked her caravan despite the Clevener family crest being clearly displayed. So Leah did what any reasonable person holding a glove full of Tier 2 magic would do. She barbecued them all. The hired mages were terrified. They'd watched this non-mage woman casually unleash a spell more powerful than anything they could dream of casting. They were having existential crises right there on the roadside. Before I even got close, Gwen arrived with her knights. White horses, gleaming armor, the whole royal escort package. She immediately ran to Leah. "Leah, are you okay?" "Me? I'm fine," Leah said casually, gesturing toward the smoking pile of human charcoal. "The bandits, though? Not so much." Gwen looked over, and even she, the strongest knight in the Empire, a woman who'd seen countless battlefields, winced at the sight. Then the gears started turning in her head. Those weak little mages Leah hired? No way they did this. So who? She turned back to Leah with a half-joking smile. Don't tell me you killed them. Huh? Just kidding. Leah looked at her dead in the eye. What if I said yes? Would you believe me, Gwen? And somewhere nearby, hidden from view, I stood watching the whole thing, grinning like an idiot. My sister just casually committed mass arson on a bandit gang with a glove I made in my basement, and now the strongest knight in the kingdom was questioning reality. Day 2 was going great. That was me, I said, stepping out casually like I hadn't just teleported across the countryside. Gwen turned around and saw me. She didn't question it for a second. I was a third-tier mage, after all. Roasting a bunch of bandits was like swatting flies for someone at my level. At least, that's what she assumed. She didn't need to know my sister had done it with a glove I made in my basement. What are you doing here? Gwen asked. Came to escort my family's caravan. Took out the trash on the way. She bought it. Then she pulled out this shimmering rainbow crystal and tucked it away. I noticed Leah had a matching one on her belt. Some kind of paired communication device, basically magical walkie-talkies. These two were apparently close enough to have each other on speed dial. Gwen ordered her knights to examine the charcoal formerly known as bandits, told Leah to stay safe, and rode off with her entourage. The second she was gone, Leah puffed her cheeks out like an angry hamster. She was mad. She'd single-handedly turned a bandit squad into barbecue and was planning to look cool in front of Gwen. Then I showed up and stole all the credit like some glory-hogging older brother, which, technically, is exactly what I was. Don't show off wealth in public, I said. You know this better than me. That shut her up instantly. She was a merchant, she understood. If anyone figured out her power came from an item instead of actual ability, she'd become a target. People would kill for that glove. Greed is a universal language. Fine. You're right, she muttered. I walked over and recharged the spent gemstone on her glove. Red light flickered, magic restored. Good as new. I turned to leave, but she called after me, squinting suspiciously. How did you even know to come here? I don't believe that escort story. Felt you activate the magic. Got curious. I said it with zero emotion. Classic ice face. No warmth whatsoever. But Leah went quiet. Something shifted behind her eyes. In her entire life, the original Victor had never shown concern for her. Not once. And now, twice in 2 days, he'd gone out of his way to help her. I could see the 3 questions forming in her head. Did someone rewire his brain? Did he have a near-death experience? Did he finally grow a conscience? Before she could get sentimental, I added, the attack might be connected to one of my enemies. I have too many to narrow it down, so watch yourself. That gave her the opening she'd been waiting for. She grinned coldly. Oh, so you do know everyone hates you. Progress. She had her own suspicions about who sent those bandits, but she kept that to herself. Smart girl. I changed the subject. Did you test the mana potions? Every mage tried one. They went from completely drained to full power in seconds. Everyone was stunned, music to my ears. I've already found a storefront in the capital, she continued, and I could hear the excitement creeping into her businesswoman voice. Adventurers, mages, there's huge demand. A shop in the busy district will explode. I was quietly impressed. I'd given her the idea yesterday, and she'd already scouted a location. This girl's execution speed was terrifying. But I didn't say anything, because the original Victor never complimented anyone, and I was committed to the brand. If you need help in the capital, contact Gwen. Leah tilted her head and gave me a long, drawn-out. Oh, her eyes narrowed. You don't know, do you? I told her to stop being cryptic. Gwen's leaving on a mission in a few days. Won't be back for at least 2 weeks. Then she twisted the knife with a smirk. You're her fiancé, and you didn't even know this? Honestly, she should just find someone better. Wait. Hold on. Back up. Fiancé? I maintained my poker face because that's all this face knows how to do, but internally I was having a full system crash. Gwen Dellen, the strongest knight in the kingdom, the woman who could fold me like origami, was my fiancé? Where is she going? I asked, as if I were asking about the weather. Leah was visibly disappointed that she couldn't crack my expression. She fiddled with the glove boredly. Mount Vesuvius. It's supposed to be a dead volcano, but locals have been hearing strange sounds. The Emperor sent her to investigate whether it might erupt. My brain stopped. Mount Vesuvius. That was not a dead volcano. Deep beneath the lava, sleeping inside that mountain, was the game's first world boss, the furnace beast. A level 50 nightmare that, when it eventually woke up, would burn every town in the surrounding area to ash. The Empire would send armies and knights to stop it. They'd all get crushed like ants. In the game, it took the entire server population 3 straight days of non-stop dying and respawning to finally kill that thing. I was there for that battle. 3 days, no sleep, logging in just to chip away another sliver of its impossible health bar alongside thousands of other players. The rewards were incredible. The memory was unforgettable. And the despair of facing something that powerful for the first time? That could never be recreated. But the beast wouldn't wake up for another year and a half. Right now, it was still sleeping. And I really wanted to see what it looked like before it woke up. Call it nostalgia. Call it stupidity. Either way, I needed to get on that mission. Which meant I needed to visit my apparent fiancé tonight. Leah noticed me spacing out and waved her hand dismissively. Don't you have a job? Go home. You slacker, professor. I nodded, drew a teleportation circle, and vanished on the spot. Behind me, I heard her sigh. That guy? He really just leaves without a single goodbye. Zero attachment. Sorry, sis. I had a fiancé to ambush. Meanwhile, Leah got to work. She ordered her people to investigate the Ducroix family, the Duke's household. Because in her mind, nobody had the guts to attack a Clevener caravan except someone powerful and stupid enough to think they could get away with it. And the only recent enemy? The Duke whose daughter I'd allegedly hit on. Her exact energy was, nobody robs our family. We're the ones who collect protection fees around here. Terrifying. I loved it. I teleported home, changed into nicer clothes, and ordered a carriage to the Dellon family estate. Time to make a house call on my fiancé. At that exact moment, Gwen had just gotten home from work. She'd stripped off her armor, shed her formal clothes, and sank into a hot bath. Relaxing in the warm water, stretching out, making those satisfied. Sounds you make when you've had the longest day. Pure bliss. Eyes closed. Steam rising. Not a care in the world. Then a knock on the bathroom door. My lady, you have a visitor. Who is it? She yawned lazily, leaning against the edge of the tub. It's Mr. Victor. Splash. She slipped and went completely underwater. Somewhere in a carriage heading toward her house. I had no idea I'd just caused the kingdom's strongest knight to nearly drown in her own bathtub. Day 2 wasn't even over, and I was already a menace to everyone around me. The Duke wanted me dead. My sister couldn't decide if she loved or hated me. My assistant was developing what might be Stockholm Syndrome. And now my fiancé was choking on bathwater because I showed up unannounced. Being Victor Clevener was an absolute disaster, and I was having the time of my life. I sat in the carriage outside Gwen's estate, waiting for someone to let me in. Vega was on my shoulder, trying to groom his feathers but failing because, and I say this with love, he'd gotten so fat his beak couldn't reach his back anymore. You're interested in that dead volcano, aren't you? He asked. What gave it away? Because there's no other reason you'd voluntarily visit your fiancé. Fair point. Devastating, but fair. Minutes passed. Nobody came to get us. Why is this taking so long? Vega complained. I closed my book. Imagine you're a beautiful woman, home alone, and your fiancé shows up unannounced late at night. What do? Vega thought carefully. Get dressed up? Put on my best look? Present myself beautifully? Wrong. You'd think he's a creep and be annoyed, but that's how it works in all the romance novels. You don't know Gwen, and honestly, I barely knew current Gwen either, but I knew enough. Gwen Dellon had never once in her life thought of herself as a woman in the romantic sense. She was a knight. Period. Our engagement was probably the biggest embarrassment of her life, like having a permanent stain on an otherwise spotless record. In the game, after Victor died, she never married. Ever. That's how badly being associated with him scarred her. And now I was knocking on her door at night. Like a genius. Get ready, I told Vega. We're going in. The crow instantly switched to, I'm just a normal pet mode. Limp. Lifeless. Zero personality. Oscar-worthy performance. The maid finally led me inside to the parlor, and there was Gwen. No makeup. No fancy clothes. Just a thick bathrobe covering every square inch of skin, hair still damp. She'd clearly been in the bath when I arrived. Her expression said, why are you here and how fast can you leave? But even completely barefaced, she was stunning. The kind of face that made you understand why knights wrote poetry and did stupid things. It's late. What do you want? Ice cold. Not hostile, just. distant, like talking to a wall that happened to be gorgeous. I sat down across from her without being invited. Heard you're leaving on a mission. Gone for 2 weeks, she nodded. Leaving in a week. Take me with you. Silence. Gwen's face went through 5 stages of confusion. Puzzlement. Frown. Double take. Lean back. And finally, full disbelief. She pressed her hand to her forehead like I'd just given her a migraine. Say that again. Take me with you. She exhaled slowly. Give me a reason. A real one, or no. I went with the strategic pitch. I know the mountain terrain, the surrounding monsters, their weaknesses. With me along, you can cut the round trip down to 7 days. She didn't even look up. Couldn't tell if she was considering it or ignoring me entirely. I opened my mouth to add more selling points, but she cut me off. I want the truth. My eyes went cold. You used your ability on me. Gwen's unique gift, the heart of justice. A built-in lie detector. She could tell instantly whether someone was being truthful or not. She could control it. She didn't use it on everyone, but she was using it on me, which meant she distrusted me so much that she couldn't even have a normal conversation without scanning for lies. I wasn't angry. I expected it, actually. It just confirmed how much she despised the original Victor. I don't trust you, she said bluntly. No sugarcoating. I smiled. Actually smiled. Then I tried again. There's a monster near Mount Vesuvius that produces unique crystals. I need those crystals for crafting magical equipment. And as I said it, I cast a quiet little spell on myself. Tier 1 magic, self-suggestion. Hypnotize yourself into temporarily believing something, boosting one random ability by 1 level. The trick to beating a lie detector? Just believe your own lies. If I genuinely believed I wanted those crystals, then it wasn't a lie. It was the truth. My truth. Mages don't fight with swords. We fight with flexible morals and creative thinking. Gwen finally looked at me. Her lie detector found nothing wrong. So you do know the volcano. Otherwise you wouldn't say that. Using the Royal Knights as your personal escort just to get crafting materials. Typical selfish Victor. I smiled warmly. I'll take that as a compliment. She knew I'd keep pestering her until she caved. That was the original Victor's brand, relentless and annoying. So she took the pragmatic route. I'll request an accompanying mage for the mission. Show up on departure day. Thank you, Night Gwen. Truly generous, helping even a selfish man like me. I placed 5 blood-red health potions on the table as a thank you gift. She glanced at them with 0 interest. Too proud to accept anything from me. It's not charity, I said. You know I hate owing people. She stared at me for a long moment, reading me with those sharp eyes. I didn't give her the chance to dig deeper. I stood up, straightened my coat, and headed for the door. I'll have everything arranged within the week. Don't bother seeing me out. She nodded and watched me leave. But as I walked away, I could feel her gaze lingering on my back. Something about the smile I'd given her, genuine, warm, had thrown her off. The real Victor never smiled like that. In the carriage, I leaned back and stared at nothing. You're angry? Vega asked. What makes you think that? After staring at your poker face this long, I've developed instincts. You only smile that brightly when something's bothering you. Angry? No, not exactly. It was more like nausea. My instincts told me to be a good person. But the only way Gwen would accept me was if I acted like the selfish jerk she expected. I had to wear the villain mask because that's the only version of me she'd believe. Being honest would have made her suspicious. Being good would have confused her. So I had to be bad to be trusted. That didn't make me angry. It just made me want to throw up a little. The next 6 days flew by in a blur. Days, teaching at the academy. Nights, basement potion factory. I was cranking out 100 mana potions daily, all shipped to Leah for the new shop. Leah reported the storefront was almost ready. We'd launch with mana potions only, build the brand first, expand later. I told her to limit sales to 50 bottles per day. Hunger marketing. She was a natural merchant. She got it immediately. At the academy, I had a secret project running. Every class, I made Henny sit in and observe. For experience, I told her. She didn't question it. She'd written most of the lectures anyway, so she probably thought it was redundant. But she followed instructions like a good assistant. Meanwhile, Erica had become my most frequent office visitor. Every evening, she showed up with an avalanche of questions, increasingly complex ones. The girl was insatiable. Here's my dirty secret. I didn't actually know most of the answers. Vega did. The evil god encyclopedia would explain everything in my head, and I'd just relay it to Erica like a human telephone. It was honestly the perfect system. Vega got to stop being bored, Erica got world-class tutoring, and I got to look like a genius while learning alongside her. And learning alongside her made me realize something humbling. Erica was an actual prodigy. Concepts that made my brain hurt, she absorbed instantly. Vega's most obscure, complicated explanations, she understood them in minutes. This kid was genuinely brilliant. If she couldn't be first in exams, nobody could. Everything was running smoothly. Business, teaching, potions, preparations. Then came the 6th day, the day before Gwen's departure. Henny followed me to class as usual, expecting another day of quiet observation. We reached the classroom door. I stopped, turned to her. Today, you're going in alone. You're going to teach this class yourself. Using everything you know. Henny's face went through approximately 17 emotions in 2 seconds. 6 days of observation hadn't been observation at all. It was training. I'd been preparing her to stand on her own this entire time, letting her absorb the rhythm of teaching, the pacing, the confidence, all building up to this exact moment. And the look on her face told me she had absolutely zero idea this was coming. Surprise, Henny. You've been promoted. Good luck. Don't die. Professor, I can't do this. Henny was shaking her head so fast I thought it might fly off. She couldn't even look at me. Henny, listen. I put my hand on her shoulder. She flinched like I'd touched her with a cattle prod. I've had you sitting in on every class this week for exactly this reason. You've been training for this. She looked up with eyes full of pure terror. But Professor, what if I mess up? It'll hurt your reputation. My reputation? What reputation? The guy who hit on a minor at a party. Reputation? The universally despised villain. Reputation? Henny, sweetie, you could set the classroom on fire, and it would still be an improvement on my public image. But I didn't say that. I just patted her back gently until the trembling slowed down. Go. Not a request. An order. Because I knew this timid little sheep would never volunteer on her own. You don't ask a scared kitten to jump. You gently push it off the ledge and hope it figures out how to land. She took one long, shaky breath and pushed open the classroom door like she was entering a gladiator arena. I stayed outside, listening. The classroom went quiet when she walked in. Then the confusion hit. Where's the professor? Why is his assistant up there? Henny's voice was already shrinking. The professor is busy today, so I'll be teaching. By the end of that sentence, she was whispering to molecules. I'm pretty sure even her own ears couldn't hear her. Then the students went off. She's just an assistant. Does she even have the professor's skills? We want Victor. If our grades drop, it's your fault. Every word hit Henny like a punch. I could practically feel her soul leaving her body through the door. She was about to apologize. I heard the first syllable, when suddenly, silence. Erica, standing up in the front row, magic circles rippling around her. She cast a silent spell on the entire classroom. Nobody could speak except whoever she allowed. Erica, you beautiful, terrifying child. Henny looked at her with the gratitude of someone who'd just been pulled from drowning. If gratitude could be converted to currency, Erica would have been the richest person in the empire. And internally, Henny was already planning her payback. Next exam, I'm leaking the test topics to this girl. That's the spirit, Henny. Corruption starts with small favors. With the classroom finally silent, Henny took a deep breath and started teaching. And here's the thing. Once she got going, she was good. Really good. The lecture notes were hers to begin with, so she knew the material cold. Her pacing was perfect. Her explanations were clear. Within minutes, the students went from skeptical to impressed to completely absorbed. It was like watching a caterpillar realize it had wings. Then she hit a wall. The lesson required a live demonstration of a Tier 2 spell called Shattered Stars. A spell she absolutely could not cast because she was only a magic apprentice with no actual mana to speak of. But she adapted fast. Erica, could you demonstrate this spell for everyone? A gamble. Would Erica help her twice? Erica walked up to the podium, took the magic textbook, studied the spell diagram for about 3 seconds, and raised her hand. Shattered stars. Ripples of light spread across the air. Glowing stars materialized, forming an intricate magic circle pattern, then vanished. The students looked confused. Where did it? Thunk, 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 thunk. Hundreds of tiny crystalline spikes appeared from nowhere and absolutely shredded the practice dummy. It looked like a porcupine that had lost a fight with another, angrier porcupine. The classroom collectively stopped breathing. What a beautifully nasty attack spell. And Erica had just learned it in real time from Henny's notes. Genius recognizes genius. By the time the bell rang, not a single student was complaining. They were genuinely impressed. Henny and Erica exchanged a smile. Two girls who'd started as strangers and ended as co-conspirators in the most unexpectedly successful substitute lesson ever. Meanwhile, I'd snuck back to my office ages ago. The moment I saw Henny hit her stride, I teleported away to do what I do best. Absolutely nothing. Coffee, magic book, quiet evening sunlight, bliss. Then Henny and Erica teleported in. Professor, Henny started, still sounding like a mouse addressing a lion. I didn't look up from my book. Good class today? How'd it feel? She clutched her chest with relief. Thanks to Erica, it went well. If there's a next time, I won't be so scared. Good. Because there will be a next time. I'm leaving for a trip. Gone for a while. Henny took this calmly. Erica, on the other hand, fumbled the bird food she was feeding Vega and spilled it all over the desk. Vega squawked internally, hey, if you're going to feed me properly. Erica ignored the angry crow and eavesdropped intensely. I needed to test whether you could handle the class alone, I told Henny. And you passed. Henny froze. You were testing me. I gave her the smallest possible smile. Barely visible. Like a sunrise behind heavy clouds. You did well. I believe you'll make an excellent teacher someday. Professor. Sniff. Wah, she burst into tears. Full waterworks. Years of being overlooked, dismissed as talentless, stuck as everyone's last choice assistant. And now someone finally told her she was good enough. The dam broke. Erica, meanwhile, was processing the news that I was leaving and experiencing two completely contradictory emotions simultaneously. Emotion 1. Oh no, I won't have my evening tutoring sessions. I'm disappointed. Emotion 2. Yes. The jerk is leaving. Out of sight, out of mind. Freedom. She settled on option 2, puffed up her chest, and told herself she was perfectly fine without me. Then I turned to her. So, what questions did you bring today? Hurry up and ask them. Once I'm done teaching you, I can clock out. Her carefully constructed emotional fortress cracked like cheap glass. He remembered. He always remembered. She pulled out her notes and walked over. But something was different. She seemed distracted. Like her brain was running two programs at once, and neither was working properly. Interesting. But not my problem. I had places to be. That evening, Leah came to my study. Shop's ready. She'd been living in the capital this whole week handling everything. Scouting, renovating, hiring, all done. The girl was a machine. Price? I asked. 1,000 geo per bottle. For a consumable in the capital? Not cheap. But for an instant mana recovery potion that shouldn't exist? An absolute steal. If we sold 50 bottles a day, that was 50,000 geo daily. And the production cost? 1 tree fruit per potion. Maybe 10 geo each. That profit margin was so obscene it should be illegal. I nodded. Right in the sweet spot. Expensive enough to signal quality. Cheap enough that professionals would buy without thinking twice. One more rule, I added. 2 bottles per person per day? Maximum. Leah looked puzzled. It's already expensive and limited supply, and now you want purchase limits too? What if nobody buys? Start small. Let the effect speak for itself. Once word spreads, demand will explode. Then the limit becomes the reason people line up. Her eyes widened. I could see the merchant gears clicking into overdrive. Since when are you better at business than me? Since I played an MMORPG where the entire economy was run by players who turned market manipulation into an art form. But I couldn't exactly say that. She yawned and asked casually, so you're really going with Gwen to that volcano? Yep. Fine. Just don't die out there. Funerals are expensive and I don't want to pay for yours. Good night, Leah. She slapped her own cheeks to wake herself up, waved, and left. Vega raised his head after she was gone. Is your sister warming up to you? I thought you two didn't get along. We don't. But it's gotten better recently. How? What changed? I placed a blue mana potion on the desk, spinning it idly between my fingers. Because I make money. That was it. That was the whole answer. In every world, in every universe, across all dimensions of reality, the fastest way to earn family respect is to be profitable. Forget emotional growth. Forget character development. Just generate revenue. The universal language isn't love. It's cash flow. Early morning. I was leaning against my carriage outside Gwen's house like a stalker with good posture. She opened the door holding a silver sword, ready for her morning training. Then she saw me and froze. "That you're here already?" She looked uncomfortable, like she'd found a stray cat on her doorstep that she couldn't shoo away. After an awkward pause, she held up the sword and offered, "Want to spar?" "I'm a mage." Her face turned red. She mumbled, "Oh," and told me to come inside. She went to the training yard and started her drills, swinging, slashing, the whole night fitness routine. I had nothing better to do, so I just stood there watching her. After a while, she got self-conscious. "Knights have to train every day? It's mandatory." I didn't ask, so we just existed. Her swinging a sword, me staring. 0 words exchanged. Peak relationship energy. After training, she reached for her water pouch to take a drink. "Drinking water right after intense exercise is bad for you," I said casually. She put the water down. Not because she agreed, but because she knew if she drank it, I'd lecture her further. Then came breakfast. She glanced at me. "Have you eaten?" "No." "Then come eat." I guess. The second she said that, I was already walking into her house before she'd even turned around. 0 hesitation. Shameless. She tried scanning me with her heart of justice. Everything I'd said and done was genuinely honest. I wasn't scheming. I was just being annoying. Truthfully. "Weird," she muttered. At the breakfast table, I ate with perfect noble etiquette. Knife, fork, small precise bites. The portrait of aristocratic grace. Gwen watched me eat, and, although she'd never admit it, found the whole thing annoyingly pleasant to look at. Apparently watching a handsome man eat properly was some kind of appetite booster. Then she glanced down at her own plate and realized she'd been eating like a construction worker. She got a little grumpy about that. After breakfast, she suited up. Full silver knight armor. She looked like a frost goddess descending from a glacier. Cold, beautiful, untouchable. Then she pulled out her white horse and I asked, "Do I have to ride a horse too?" She suddenly realized she'd completely forgotten that mages don't do long-distance hiking. Now she was panicking internally. Was she going to have to share a horse with me? The mental anguish was visible. While she was having her crisis, I'd already asked her servants to bring me a good travel horse from the family stable. Knight families have plenty of horses. She was about to offer a solution when I swung myself onto the horse in one smooth motion. Perfect mount. Textbook form. "You can ride? You look experienced," she said, surprised. I said nothing. Couldn't risk speaking. Her lie detector was always on around me. And I learned to ride in a video game where I literally rode dragons. Wasn't going to pass the truth test. But yeah, I was a power leveler. I'd ridden every mount in the game. Horses, griffins, dragons, giant wolves. A regular horse was like riding a bicycle. We rode to the knight headquarters in complete silence. Gwen kept glancing back at me. Our eyes met. She immediately whipped her head forward. I went back to enjoying the scenery. At headquarters, dozens of knights stood in formation, ready for inspection. Gwen addressed them from the platform. "The mage I requested for this mission has been found. Some of you may already know him." She stepped aside and gestured for me to come forward. The moment I walked onto that stage, I could see it in their eyes. Victor. Clevener. Every single knight knew that name. They hated that name. Half of them probably fantasized about challenging me to a duel. But now, face to face with an actual third-tier mage, their bravery evaporated like morning dew. Because here's the reality. If I decided to go berserk right now, who was going to stop me? Maybe Gwen. But Gwen was my fiancée. So, nobody. The fear was delicious. But honestly, I was a little disappointed. I'd been hoping for the classic, arrogant soldier disrespects the newcomer, scene where I get to dramatically put someone in their place. You know, standard power fantasy stuff. But no, they were all terrified from the start. No confrontation. No drama. Vega whispered from my shoulder. "You were hoping for that kind of cliché development? Just wanted some entertainment. This is boring." Gwen did a final head count and was about to give the departure order when Gwen sis. "You forgot your sword." A tiny boy in oversized armor came sprinting toward us, carrying a silver sword almost as tall as himself. The blade covered his entire face. He couldn't see where he was going. He tripped on a rock. The sword launched out of his hands like a javelin, aimed directly at my face. Every knight gasped. That thing would kill me if it hit. I reached out my hand. "Don't," Gwen screamed. "That sword has extreme magic resistance. Translation, magic won't stop it." I couldn't use a shield spell. Good thing I wasn't planning to. I caught the sword barehanded. The blade was mid-flight, deadly momentum and all. I snatched it out of the air, pivoted my body smoothly, and redirected all the force into a graceful spin. Then, because I'm me, I casually twirled the sword in a flashy sword flourish. Every knight's jaw hit the ground simultaneously. The Grand Knight Commander's legendary sword, being spun around like a toy, by a mage. Gwen stood frozen, arms still outstretched from trying to warn me, eyes wide. I played with the sword for another second, then handed it back to her with a polite little, "Sorry, haven't touched one of these in a while." Got carried away. Gwen stared at me. Then she remembered our breakfast conversation and said, with visible irritation, "You know how to use a sword." I shrugged. I'm a mage, and quietly, in my head, a full-class mage. Every weapon, every skill, every class. Professional power leveler, baby. Vega glanced at me. "I think I understand now why you do these things, yeah? Because showing off feels amazing." Gwen snatched her sword back, sheathed it with aggressive energy, and shouted at the knights. "Everyone, mount up. We're leaving." She was done with me. Completely done. Meanwhile, back in the capital, it was opening day for our potion shop. Leah was personally manning the storefront. She'd hired promoters, set up displays, put the beautiful blue potions in the window. Everything looked perfect. The results? Underwhelming. Mages walked by, saw the potions, got interested, then saw the price tag, and kept walking. Too expensive. Everyone said the same thing. 1,000 geo per bottle was a hard sell when nobody knew what the product actually did. Leah wasn't worried. All it took was one person discovering how insane these potions were, and word would spread like wildfire. But before that could happen, she got a different kind of visitor. The place. A gang of tattooed thugs showed up at the entrance, cracking their knuckles. Classic shakedown crew. Probably sent by a rival business or the local protection racket. Leah yawned. This was Tuesday for her. She touched the mage's hand on her glove, my gift, and felt oddly grateful toward me. Back home in Clevener territory, nobody dared mess with our business. The capital had different rules, apparently. Behind her, a cold female voice spoke up. "Should I remove them, Lady Leah?" "Don't," Leah said, and her expression shifted from bored to amused. "If we chase them off, who's going to advertise for us?" Outside, the thug leader shouted the magic words, "Wreck the place," and somewhere on a horse heading toward a volcano. I had no idea my sister was about to turn a gang of thugs into the best marketing campaign our potion shop could ask for. That girl was terrifying. I was so proud. Now, I wasn't there for any of this. I was on horseback heading toward a volcano with my fiancé, who could barely look at me. But Leah told me everything afterward, and honestly, I couldn't have scripted it better myself. The thugs went absolutely feral on the shop, smashing displays, breaking bottles, blue mana potion pooling on the ground like liquid money bleeding out on the pavement. Every shattered bottle was 1,000 geo down the drain. Leah's assistant was panicking behind her. "Shouldn't we stop them?" Leah didn't move. Just sat in her chair like a queen watching peasants dig their own graves. "Let them smash. The more they break, the more they pay." Cold. Calculated. Terrifying. That's my sister. Of course, street thugs don't actually pay for anything. They were obviously hired muscle sent by someone with a grudge. But Leah had a plan. She was about to step outside and introduce those gentlemen to the mage's hand when, "What do you think you're doing?" Someone beat her to it. A golden-haired young noblewoman stepped out of a fancy carriage like an angel descending from heaven to personally scold the wicked. The crowd immediately recognized her. Erica Ducroix, the Duke's daughter. My student. The same girl whose birthday party the original Victor had ruined. And she was here, defending MY shop. The irony was so thick you could spread it on toast. Turns out, Erica had the day off and overheard servants mentioning that the Clevener family opened a shop in the East District. Being curious about what her professor's family business sold, she rode half an hour across the capital to check it out, only to arrive at a crime scene. It's the Duke's daughter. Run, the thugs scattered like cockroaches in daylight. But they didn't get far. Leah gave a silent signal to someone behind her, felt a gust of wind, and when she looked back, the mystery employee was already gone. Along with any chance those thugs had of escaping, Leah switched instantly to damsel in distress mode. She rushed out to greet Erica with the performance of a lifetime. "Oh, Lady Erica. Thank you. I'm just a helpless woman. I was so scared." I didn't know what to do. Masterclass acting. Oscar-worthy. This was a woman who ran an entire territory's commerce solo and had barbecued bandits with magical artillery yesterday. Helpless was not in her vocabulary, but Erica didn't know that. Erica, being the genuinely good person she was, noticed the destruction and immediately offered to compensate all the damages, plus buy whatever remaining stock was left. Classic noble generosity. Leah smiled like a cat that just cornered a very rich mouse. Are you sure? It's not cheap. Erica waved her maid forward to pay. No hesitation. Money was no object for a duke's daughter. 1,000 geo, Leah announced. Erica nodded. Reasonable for total damages. Per bottle. The maid's hand froze mid-wallet. Erica's brain short-circuited. 1,000 geo per bottle? Of potion? Was it brewed with liquid gold? Was the bottle itself carved from diamond? Even the bystanders were doing mental math and arriving at cardiac arrest. Then Leah added the cherry on top. Also, my master says each person can only buy 2 bottles per day. So even though you're compensating us, I can't let you take more than that. The girl offering to pay for everything was being told she couldn't buy more than 2. What kind of backward shop was this? But that restriction actually made Erica more curious. If they were limiting purchases, this stuff had to be special, right? What does it do? She asked, picking up one surviving bottle. Restores magic power. Instantly, Erica had never heard of such a thing existing. Her scholarly instincts screamed research opportunity. She wanted to take bottles home and study them. After some internal debate, pride versus curiosity versus the fact that I'd actually taught her a lot of valuable magic, she made her decision. I'm Professor Victor Clevener's student. I can't just watch his shop get destroyed and do nothing. I'll compensate the broken bottles at material cost plus labor, and I'll buy all the remaining intact ones at full price. Leah did the math. 10 intact bottles at 1,000 each, plus compensation for the smashed ones at 300 each. Grand total, a very fat stack of gold. Deal, Erica said without blinking. My 17-year-old student had just single-handedly funded our shop's entire opening day, because she felt bad about some thugs breaking things at a store belonging to the teacher she claimed to hate. Leah handed over the potions, collected the money, and watched Erica's carriage disappear with an expression of pure amazement. What kind of magic potion had I fed this girl to make her this loyal? The answer was knowledge. And apparently, knowledge was worth its weight in gold. Literally. After Erica left, Leah pulled out 50 more bottles from the back, slapped the same 1,000 geo price tags on them, and put them on display. Passing mages saw the restocked shelves and nearly fainted. She had more the whole time. Meanwhile, in a dark alley across town, those thugs were having a very bad day. Leah's mysterious employee, the one with green eyes and a wooden sword, had tracked them all down and beaten them into modern art. Who sent you? The masked woman demanded, standing over the lead thug with a wooden blade pressed against his skull. His arms and legs were bent in directions God did not intend. The Duke. Duke Rivage. It was Duke Rivy. She knocked him unconscious with one clean strike, then dragged his body out of the alley by the ankle like she was taking out the trash. So the Duke was behind the attacks on our caravan and the shop. Leah had suspected it all along. Nobody else was stupid enough to mess with the Clevener family's business. And now we had proof. I found out about all of this later, of course. While my sister was running a masterclass in manipulation, marketing, and organized violence, I was on a horse making awkward eye contact with my fiancé. But even from a distance, I had to admire Leah's work. She'd turned a shakedown into a sales event, gotten the Duke's own daughter to fund our opening day, extracted a confession from the thugs, and restocked the shelves before lunch. The Clevener family business was in very capable hands. And the mana potions? The ones Erica took home to research. Once she discovered what they actually did, word would spread through the academy like wildfire. A Duke's daughter endorsing our product was worth more than 1,000 advertisements. Leah didn't just survive opening day. She won it. Completely. And she didn't even need my help. I was starting to think she was the real main character of this story. While I was off riding toward a volcano, my sister was busy being a supervillain. Leah had the thug leader strapped to a rack in a basement. Couldn't move, couldn't run, just hanging there soaking wet after she'd splashed a bucket of cold water on his face to wake him up. Her bodyguard, the masked green-eyed woman, stood in the corner looking terrifying. The guy remembered her. She'd single-handedly demolished his entire crew like they were made of cardboard. Leah sat at a table covered in torture tools, casually filing her nails. "Talk," she said sweetly. "Or we try these out. I'll talk. I'll tell you everything." Slap. She hit him across the face. "I haven't asked anything yet." The guy tried threatening her. "This is kidnapping. Illegal torture. You'll be arrested." Leah looked at him like he was stupid. "And when they find your body in a ditch, who's going to care? You can't do this. Who do you think you are?" "I'm rich." Silence. "My brother is Victor Clevener. Nobleman. Third-tier mage." Longer silence. "He confessed. Said the Duke sent them. Gave up a hideout address. Begged to be believed." But Leah wasn't buying it. She called it a clumsy frame job. If it were the Duke, why would a hired thug know his name so easily? The guy's insistence actually made the Duke less suspicious. Then she pulled the ultimate move. Told him she believed him, watched his face flash with surprise for half a second, and laughed. "Just kidding. I was bluffing." But that reaction told me everything. She smashed 1,000 geo mana potion on his face. Blue liquid and blood mixing together. Then she told her bodyguard to finish up and sell his organs for spare change. "Even your whole body isn't worth one bottle of my product," she said, smiling like the devil in heels. "But don't worry, that bottle is worthless to me too. My sister, ladies and gentlemen. The real monster of the Clevener family." Hours later, the bodyguard, an elf named Leon with pointed ears and pale gold hair, reported back. She'd cleaned everything up and raided the thug's hideout, recovering 5,000 geo they'd been paid. Leah's conclusion? The Duke was still a suspect, but someone might be deliberately stirring conflict between the Clevener and Ducroix families. A third party playing puppet master. Or maybe the Duke just hated having another young third-tier mage stealing his daughter's spotlight. As for Erica conveniently showing up at the shop, Leah didn't trust that either. And she definitely didn't believe I was capable of actually teaching anyone. Victor teaching a student? He probably just reads whatever his assistant writes and wings it. Somewhere on the road, Vegas sneezed. I glanced at him. Can crows even catch colds? But I had bigger problems. We'd arrived at Sancher Town, a tiny village at the foot of Mount Vesuvius. 1 inn. That's it. The knights were fine sleeping at the stables with their horses, but Gwen needed proper rest, and I needed sleep to recharge my mental energy as a mage. So we went to the inn together. 2 rooms, please. Sorry, the innkeeper said. Only 1 room left. Big bed though. Gwen looked like someone had told her the world was ending. Are you sure there's nothing else? Ma'am, I wouldn't dare lie to a knight. 1 room is all I've got. The innkeeper looked at us and grinned. Besides, you 2 look like a couple. Sharing shouldn't be a problem, right? Gwen was about to protest, probably suggest she'd sleep outside on a rock or build an entire hotel from scratch with her bare hands, when I stepped in. We'll take it. That's fine. Gwen turned to me with eyes so wide I could see my own reflection in them. Look, it was practical. 1 room, 2 tired people, a mountain to climb tomorrow. I wasn't about to let her sleep on the ground because of awkwardness. I was a gentleman. A gentleman with a poker face and absolutely zero romantic intentions. But the look on Gwen's face said she was calculating exactly how many different ways she could kill me in my sleep. Day 3 of the trip, and I'd already achieved the impossible, making the kingdom's strongest knight genuinely panic. Not with magic, not with combat, with a hotel reservation. We stood at the door staring at the single bed like it was a bomb. Why did you agree to this? Gwen asked, practically vibrating with discomfort. We should ask again, or wait, or remember why you're here, I said flatly. You're not on vacation. That shut her up. But the reality remained. 1 room, 1 bed, 1 man, 1 woman, 0 walls between them. Gwen squared her shoulders like she was preparing for battle. I'll sleep on the floor. Fine, she blinked. I think she expected me to argue, to be gentlemanly, and insist she take the bed. But she was a knight in full armor. She could sleep on gravel and call it comfortable. I was a mage who needed proper rest to recharge mental energy. The bed was mine. Logic wins. My lack of chivalry clearly annoyed her, though she couldn't figure out why. Then came the problem. After a full day of riding in armor, Gwen was sticky, sweaty, and suddenly very aware that a man was in the room. She started fidgeting, biting her finger, looking troubled. I could hear her armor clinking with every anxious movement. Why haven't you taken off your armor? I asked. She turned slightly red and mumbled something I couldn't hear. You want to take a bath? Here, I looked around our luxury accommodation. One bed, two chairs, one table, no bathroom, no curtain, no running water. Nothing. That's an unreasonable request. She got embarrassed and tried to backtrack. She'd just sleep in the armor. It was fine. She was a knight. Knights endure hardship. But I could see it in her eyes. She was miserable. So I did something stupid. I helped. First spell, wood carving. Vines and wooden planks sprouted from the floor, twisted together, and shaped themselves into a smooth, polished bathtub. Gwen's eyes went wide. Then I cast two spells simultaneously, water creation and fire heating, layering the magic circles together. Dual casting. Hot water materialized from thin air and poured into the tub like I'd turned on an invisible faucet. Gwen was speechless. Magic can do this? Finally, I snapped my fingers and a dark fog barrier divided the room in half. Couldn't see through it from either side. Total privacy. Gwen stared at everything I'd just done and had what might have been the first positive thought she'd ever had about me. Having a mage around during missions might actually be nice. She activated her lie detector hard, confirmed I wasn't scheming anything, stripped off her armor, and sank into the bath. Vega looked at me with pure contempt. You wasted magic energy to build a bathtub? I chugged a mana potion. Full recovery. You wouldn't understand. I really wouldn't. Here's the thing about being a normal man sitting 3 meters from a bathing woman with only a magic fog curtain between you. It's distracting. I tried reading my book. Couldn't focus. The sounds from the other side were present. Very present. Should I cast a soundproofing spell? No. She'd notice and it'd be weird. I cast self-suggestion on myself instead. Killed the thoughts. Extinguished the fire. Crisis managed through self-hypnosis. Truly the most dignified use of magic in history. Then Gwen poked her head through the curtain. I also washed my clothes. Could you? I cast hot wind before she finished. Warm air blew on her side for drying. Thanks. She pulled her head back, embarrassed. Do you need a bath too? She asked from behind the curtain. I was gripping my forehead. I have a wind barrier spell. I don't get dirty. Also, if you want me to use your bath water, I'll come over there right now. Sorry. I got carried away. Then, because the universe hated me. Actually, could I have the bed? My clean clothes will get dirty on the floor. Gwen, I am not your parent. I cannot take care of your every need. 5 minutes later, she was sleeping peacefully on the bed. Because I caved, I used sleep magic to knock her out, then levitated her onto the mattress. I sat in the chair, defeated, staring at the ceiling. The Gwen I knew from the game was a cold, merciless killing machine. The hardest boss I'd ever fought. But this Gwen? She worried about smelling bad. She got flustered about room arrangements. She apologized when she pushed too far. She was just a person. She's not the Gwen I know, I muttered. But somehow, that thought stuck and wouldn't leave. Next morning, Gwen addressed her knights looking refreshed and energized. The knights noticed she seemed unusually clean and well-rested, then glanced at me and collectively made, faces. I chose to ignore that entirely. Gwen offered to escort me to my destination, but I declined. I looked toward the silent volcano in the distance, feeling a cocktail of excitement and weight in my chest. Down there, deep beneath the rock, the furnace beast was sleeping. The monster that had once taken thousands of players 3 days to kill. And I was about to go visit it. Alone. I'll be going separately from here, I said. Somewhere beneath that mountain, a world-ending catastrophe was napping, and I was walking toward it on purpose. Being a former power leveler meant I never could resist checking out a raid boss, even when the raid boss could melt continents. I teleported away and left Gwen with her knights. Behind me, I could hear one of the soldiers sidling up to her. So, Knight Commander, you two had a fight last night. No, it's not what you. Hey, couples fight all the time. My wife and I argue constantly, and our kids already ate. You'll make up by bedtime, trust me. Even from a distance, I could feel Gwen's face catching fire. She screamed at the poor man to shut up and march. But here's what she was actually thinking, and I wouldn't learn this until later. As she rode her white horse toward the mountain, she was quietly replaying last night. The bathtub I'd made, the privacy barrier, the bed I'd given up. How she woke up tucked in comfortably while I sat in a chair all night reading. Is he really a jerk? She wondered. She also thought about our arranged marriage. As the second daughter, she had no power to refuse. She'd always dreaded it. But now something small and annoying was shifting inside her, and she hated it. She shook it off, raised her silver sword, and shouted, "Move out. Good. Stop thinking about me." I had a date with a sleeping apocalypse. I landed halfway up the volcano via teleportation. Maximum range. The landscape was dead, gray ash, cracked rocks, zero vegetation. Hundreds of years since the last eruption had turned everything into a wasteland. The closer I climbed to the top, the stronger the fire elemental energy became. It was like walking toward an open furnace. Vega noticed too. His single eye narrowed. Interesting. I'd love to crack open your skull and see how your brain works. You actually found a calamity. A calamity. That was the official historical name for what players called the furnace beast. The world had 6 of them, one for each element: wind, wood, fire, earth, water, lightning. Each one was a natural disaster wrapped in flesh. When they woke up, entire regions burned, flooded, or crumbled. Nothing good ever came from their existence. This one, the fire calamity, Gulleton, was sleeping beneath this volcano. Mountain-sized, covered in molten fire. Basically a volcano inside a volcano. "It's sleeping peacefully," Vega said. "Why are you here?" Collecting interest early. I stood at the volcano's mouth, looking down into pitch darkness. Scalding air blasted upward. Wind whipped my coat around. Even Vega's voice was hard to hear over the roaring. "Hey, why are you standing on the edge? You're not going to jump, right?" I didn't answer. "You are not actually going to jump? Hold on tight. Could you at least ask for my opinion?" I leaped into the volcano. 100-meter free fall. Glowing red rocks streaking past us. Vega's beak was clamped onto my collar so hard I thought he'd bite through the fabric. The almighty evil god had completely forgotten he had wings. A flash of white light. Teleportation mid-fall, and we landed in a dark cavern deep underground. Vega opened his eye. Pitch black everywhere. Just a flat stone floor stretching into nothing. "It's dark. Victor? Victor." I picked him up from behind and put him on my shoulder. Then the snoring started. Not regular snoring. The kind of snoring that shakes the ground. That rattles your teeth. That makes you question every life choice that led you to this exact moment. Who the hell is snoring that, Lou? Oh, Vega stopped talking. Because right in front of us, in the darkness, IT was sleeping. Gulleton. The fire calamity. How big was it? Imagine a mountain. Now imagine that mountain was alive, breathing, and covered in magma. That's roughly the vibe. It towered above us like a living skyscraper of molten destruction. Vega broke into a cold sweat. His feathers were standing straight up. "Kid, you're not planning to fight this thing, are you?" "I'm just a regular bird right now. I can't help you at all." I lit a small flame on my fingertip, illuminating the beast's true form. Magnificent. Terrifying. Everything I remembered and more. "Don't sell yourself short," I said calmly. "You're the biggest reason I can beat it." And then, the snoring stopped. 2 enormous red eyes opened. Like searchlights powered by hellfire. ROARR. The roar shook the entire volcano. Every rock, every wall, every molecule of air vibrated with pure primal fury. A god-tier monster had just woken up, and it was staring down at 2 ants standing on its doorstep. One ant was a mage with a poker face and a death wish. The other was a fat crow screaming internally. This was either going to be legendary or the shortest adventure story ever written. Molten lava dripped off Gulleton like sweat off a bodybuilder at the gym. Black clouds of fire choked the sky. The thing was covered in rock armor from centuries of sleeping, and its teeth could swallow a building. It roared. The entire volcano shook. "Vega, link with me." "Link? Are you insane? You're actually going to fight this thing? I don't want to die." Vega screamed, flapping around in a full panic spiral. Internally, the bird was having a complete breakdown. If he'd known I was this crazy, he never would have signed that contract. Forget divine revival. He was going to die as a fat crow in a volcano because his roommate had 0 survival instincts. But there was nowhere to run. He grudgingly touched his wing to my forehead. Link with evil god, Habika established. Syncing. Success. A crow icon appeared on my status bar. Connection complete. Great. Now use the boosted teleportation and get us out, Vega shrieked. Run? From this? I smiled. The kind of smile that made Vega absolutely certain I'd lost my mind. But I hadn't. I'd been planning this since I first heard Mount Vesuvius. This was a sealed space, a pocket dimension inside the volcano. No matter how hard we fought, the outside world wouldn't be affected. A natural arena, a private raid instance. And Gulleton? Still sealed. Its power was roughly equal to the dungeon version I'd beaten countless times before. Same boss, same mechanics, same patterns. Except now I had a better character and an infinite mana cheat code. MP 999,999/999,999 Vegas. I glowed blue as raw magical energy flooded my body like an ocean crashing through a dam. My mana bar skyrocketed past every limit I'd ever known. With that much fuel? Oh, this was very doable. Gulleton was still shaking off its stone armor, sluggish from its long nap. Perfect opening window. I got to work. Hands up, magic circles spinning into existence everywhere. The air, the ground, the walls. Layer after layer of intricate spell formations. Vega watched from above as dozens of magical arrays rotated and interlocked across the entire volcano interior. Then I threw 6 transparent crystals into position around the crater. Are you turning this entire volcano into your spell field? I didn't answer. My grin did. Runes crawled across every surface. The crystals linked together, symbols connecting, bending, leaping between them. A massive magic formation sealed the volcano's mouth like a lid on a pot. I snapped my fingers. Spells of every color materialized around Gulleton like orbital satellites. I checked its status bar: frozen, poisoned, weakened, agitated, debuffs stacking like pancakes. Then I stomped. Dozens of light beams shot from the formation into my body. Attack up. Water damage amplified 7 levels. Fire resistance maxed. My muscles tightened. My reflexes sharpened. I could literally track individual drops of lava falling from its body in slow motion. I looked up. There it was. A health bar hovering above Gulleton's head, stretching across the sky like a highway. 100 meters long, easy. Level 50. In the gaming world, there's a saying, if you dare show me your health bar, I'll kill you. Even if you're a god. Gulleton's eyes blazed red. The temperature exploded. Fire spontaneously ignited in midair. Heat waves battered everything. That's Gulleton's natural disaster ability. Scorching earth, Vega warned. I knew. I'd seen it 1,000 times. But I nodded politely anyway. 10 identical blue magic circles appeared on my 10 fingertips. I raised my hands. A shimmering blue castle materialized in the sky above us. From its center, tidal waves erupted in every direction, crashing across the battlefield. Tier 3 magic, tidal sanctuary, water versus fire. The eternal counter. And I had unlimited mana to keep it going forever. Game on, big guy. Meanwhile, outside, Gwen had no idea what was happening. She was leading the knights up the mountain, casually slicing through crab-like monsters along the way. She noticed they dropped red crystals, the same kind I'd mentioned needing for crafting. Without hesitation, she ordered every knight to collect them. Keep every crystal you find. That's an order. She was repaying last night's favor. The bathtub, the bed. She didn't like owing people, especially not me. Then, a rumble from the summit. Black smoke rising, and a roar that shook her bones. Did you hear that? She asked her knights. They looked at each other and shrugged. Probably just volcanic gas, Commander, but Gwen heard it clearly. Something massive was screaming up there. And I was supposed to be at the summit. All knights rushed to the volcano mouth. Find Victor. They searched everywhere. Nothing. No trace of me. But the temperature kept climbing to dangerous levels. Horses couldn't handle it. Knights were drenched in sweat, gasping for air. Then a pillar of fire erupted from the crater, shooting straight at them. Everyone down, knights hit the dirt. Horses collapsed to their knees. The fire column dissolved into sparks, but the heat was suffocating. Even Gwen's specially enchanted armor couldn't keep her cool anymore. The volcano might erupt. Evacuate the townspeople now. Knights scrambled downhill toward the village. Gwen stood alone, staring at the raging volcano, armor scorching, sweat streaming down her face. Victor, where are you? Sorry, Gwen. I was a little busy. About 500 meters directly below her feet, I was having the time of my life, surfing tidal waves inside a volcano, throwing building-sized water spells at a monster. The size of a skyscraper, with a screaming crow on my shoulder and a grin on my face that hadn't faded since I jumped. Some people vacation at the beach. I vacation inside active raid bosses. Hands in pockets. Coat flapping in the heat. Standing inside a volcano facing a mountain-sized fire monster. A voice echoed in my head. That year, I stood with my hands in my pockets, not knowing what an opponent was. A fire pillar screamed toward me. I didn't flinch. The magic circle at my feet raised a barrier that swatted it aside like a mosquito. With unlimited mana and dozens of preloaded spell formations, I was teleporting, dodging, and flooding the arena with tidal waves. This colossal boss was just a really big, really durable chew toy. Gulleton reared up, carrying an actual small mountain on its back, and blasted lava everywhere. Rocks punched through my body. Except it wasn't my body. Water mirage. A decoy made of water. The real me appeared behind it and rammed a water lance straight into its butt. Fire monster plus water attack equals critical damage. Gulleton screamed and started raging harder. Lava everywhere. Fire pillars erupting from the ground. But every time it raised a claw, I already knew what was coming. Hundreds of boss fights had burned every pattern into my muscle memory. Dodge left. Shield up. Counter. Repeat. Hours passed. I was still fresh. Gulleton's health bar had barely dipped a few percent. Vega was losing his mind. It's been hours. Are you going to keep fighting? I thought about it. First time I fought this thing in-game. It took 3 days with thousands of players. 3 more days should do it, I said cheerfully. Vega wanted to die. I unleashed everything. Ice storms, death rituals, water prisons, spells firing off my fingertips like a magic fireworks factory. The sky was filled with glowing circles. This isn't third-tier mage power, Vega sputtered. Gulleton's tail whipped sideways and sheared off half the volcano wall. Boulders crashed into lava, splashing magma stories high. I shadow-stepped through dark fog to the other side and kept shooting. It charged a sun-bright fireball in its throat. Boom! Obliterated the mountainside where I'd been standing. I'd already swapped positions with an ice decoy. The decoy evaporated into steam. I didn't take a scratch. Then I went big. Tier 3 summon, White Spirit of Malice. A massive white marble gate materialized behind me and slowly creaked open. Fog exploded outward, drowning the entire volcano interior. Victor, I'm still here. Don't let that thing attack me. Vega screamed from somewhere in the white void. Smart bird. The White Spirit doesn't distinguish friend from foe. A pair of impossibly long, skeletal pale arms reached out of the gate and grabbed Gulleton's head, trying to drag the beast inside. But Gulleton weighed approximately 1 billion tons, so the gate started collapsing instead. The spirit pulled itself out anyway, 7 eyes circling its skull, lower body made of 3 intertwined snake tails that covered the entire lava floor. Then it ripped out its own spine, turned it into a blade, and cracked open Gulleton's rock armor. Still as reckless as ever, I sighed. While the spirit kept Gulleton busy, I reapplied debuffs, crafted items mid-battle from my inventory, and threw everything at the boss. Every little bit counted. At 10% health gone, Gulleton transformed. Eyes blazing brighter. Lava flowing faster. Rock spikes growing from its tail. Fire becoming magma. The ground turned into a lake of molten death. No floor. No problem. I drew a square in the air, snapped my fingers, and condensed a block of ultra-dense ice to stand on. Floating platform. Magic continued. This was the real furnace beast. The form that earned its name. And fighting it made my blood sing. Outside, the volcano was going haywire. Gwen had sent knights to evacuate the town. She stayed at the halfway point with a few soldiers, watching the mountain turn red like heated iron. Steam billowed from the crater. The surface was hot enough to cook on. Knight Commander, this volcano is becoming a griddle. She ordered emergency reinforcements from the capital. Meanwhile, back in the capital, Erica was sitting on her bed, hugging one of my mana potions, having an existential crisis. She'd tested it. She'd studied it. And her entire worldview had shattered. This thing only costs 1,000 geo. It should cost 10 times that. Her brain was still melting when something else happened. A sharp pain stabbed through her skull, and a voice, faint, agonized, whispered in her mind. It hurts. It hurts, mother. Mother. Before she could process that, she heard servants outside her door. Her father, Duke Rivi, was leaving on emergency orders from the Emperor. Every 3rd-tier and 2nd-tier mage in the capital was being mobilized. Destination, Mount Vesuvius. The volcano was potentially erupting. Erica connected the dots instantly. I was already there. Now her father was going too. Something massive was happening. And that mysterious voice in her head. Was it connected? I'm coming too, she declared. Absolutely not, the Duke said firmly. You're too young. You have school. School? Every mage above second tier is leaving. Who's going to teach me? The janitor? The only professor worth anything is Victor, and he's already at the volcano. The Duke wavered. His daughter was 17, nearly an adult. A second-tier mage with more talent than people twice her age. He couldn't cage her forever. He sighed. Fine. You can come. We're going to Mount Vesuvius. The Royal Knights sent a distress signal. The volcano may be erupting. It wasn't erupting, of course. It was just me, fighting a god-tier monster inside a pocket dimension, accidentally making the entire mountain glow red and shoot fire columns into the sky. Oops. Half the kingdom was now mobilizing because of my solo raid session. Armies, mages, knights, all rushing toward a volcano that was erupting because one lunatic with unlimited mana decided to pick a fight with a sleeping apocalypse. And I was standing on a floating ice cube, coat billowing, hands back in my pockets between spell rotations, having the absolute best time of my entire life. 3 days to go. While I was having the time of my life punching a god inside a volcano, the entire kingdom was losing its collective mind outside. The capital mobilized every available mage. Armies marched. Carriages rolled through the night. All because my solo raid session was making the volcano glow red and shoot fire pillars into the sky, like the world's worst fireworks show. Duke Rivi arrived with Erica after a full day of travel. Nobles gathered, exchanging pleasantries like it was a cocktail party at the end of the world. Old men complimented Erica's talent. She smiled politely. Everyone pretended they weren't terrified. Then Gwen appeared, looking grim and sweaty, and briefed everyone. The volcano started acting strange yesterday. We heard a massive roar from the summit. Temperature spiked. 100-meter fire pillars shot out of the crater. The mages blinked at each other like confused owls. Also, Gwen added, our accompanying mage went to investigate the summit and disappeared. Who? Victor Clevener. Chaos. Every mage who'd ever held a grudge against me immediately jumped on the blame train. It's obviously his fault. That scoundrel probably caused all of this. Classic Victor. Duke Rivi calmed everyone down. Finding who's responsible isn't the priority. Surviving is. Then, right on cue, a massive roar echoed from the mountaintop. This time, everyone heard it. The entire camp went dead silent, staring at the volcano like it had just spoken to them. Which, technically it had. That was Gulleton screaming because I'd just hit it with another tidal wave. An old woman from the village fought past the night guards, screaming about a volcano god sealed beneath the mountain centuries ago. A fire deity that would burn the sky and earth when it awakened. Most mages dismissed her as crazy, but Duke Rivi listened carefully. The old legend matched what was happening a little too perfectly. Meanwhile, Erica was experiencing something nobody else could sense. A voice in her head, faint, pained, whispering, "It hurts." Mother, she'd been hearing it since the capital, and it was getting stronger near the volcano. She asked to investigate the summit. The Duke shut her down hard. Unless you're stronger than me, you're not setting one foot up there. Erica went quiet. Her father had been a third-tier mage for 30 years. People said if anyone would reach fourth tier, it'd be him. She couldn't beat Victor, let alone jump 2 entire tiers above her current level. But that voice kept calling. Something up there was in pain. The Duke organized the mages into battle formation. Third-tier mages in front, second-tier supporting. They'd draw massive war magic circles over the entire volcano. Whatever came out, lava, monsters, fire gods, they'd blast it into oblivion. Down in the sealed dimension, things were getting spicy. After a full day of continuous fighting, I'd finally taken my first hit. A fire pillar grazed me. Just a graze. It burned half my coat off and left my body scorched in several places, flames still licking at the wounds. Vegas stared at me like I was an alien. You fought a calamity for an entire day and only got hit once. In his eyes, I was the real monster. And honestly, fair assessment. But one hit from Gulleton was no joke. That graze had done serious damage. A direct hit would have vaporized me, bones and all. The fatigue was real. My concentration was slipping. 24 hours of non-stop combat against a level 50 world boss was pushing even my limits. Just give up, Vega pleaded. You have enough mana to teleport out. Let's go. I dodged another fire pillar while slapping a flame resistance buff on myself. If I leave now, this thing breaks free instantly. It'll burst out of this volcano and burn everything within 100 miles to ash. The town, the knights, Gwen, everyone. You understand that, right? Vega went silent. Then I remembered who I was talking to. Sorry, forgot you're an evil god. You probably don't care about that stuff. But I do. I ripped off what remained of my burning coat and let it fall into the lava below. It dissolved into sparks and vanished. I'm not trying to be a hero, but I'm also not going to let an unstoppable monster loose on the world just because I'm tired. Gulleton's health bar was down to 2/3. I'd carved away 1/3 of a world boss's health. Solo. In one day? That was insane by any standard. And the fundamental truth hadn't changed. If it had a health bar, I could kill it. The fire beast roared, powering up for another attack. My blood was pumping. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from excitement. This was what I lived for. Not the teaching, not the politics, not the potion business. This, the impossible fight. The raid boss that shouldn't be beatable. The challenge that makes your brain burn brighter than any spell. I only got hit once, I said, cracking my knuckles. I haven't lost yet, because this wasn't just a fight anymore. This was my pride as a professional power leveler on the line. Every account I'd ever boosted. Every impossible boss I'd ever soloed. Every sleepless night grinding someone else's character to perfection. All of it came down to moments like this, where the only thing standing between victory and death was pure, undiluted skill. Gulleton wanted to burn the world? Fine. But it picked the wrong volcano to wake up in. Because I was here. And I didn't quit raids. Not after one hit. Not after one day. Not ever. 3 days solo clear. That was the goal. And I was just getting started. I was still inside the volcano beating up a fire god, so I missed all of this. But the story was too good not to share. Outside, the kingdom's mages had surrounded Mount Vesuvius like a magical siege. Dozens of them stood in a massive ring around the mountain, arms raised, pouring mana into an enormous combined spell formation. The thing stretched for miles, glowing runes, magic chains drilling into the rock, enchanted steel stakes hammered into the mountainside. It was the fantasy equivalent of wrapping a volcano in industrial-strength cling wrap. The system was smart. Third-tier mages held the formation, while second-tier mages rotated in shifts behind them, feeding them mana like human batteries. When one batch ran dry, they'd go rest, and the next group stepped up. Erica was assigned to the second-tier rotation like everyone else. No special treatment for the Duke's daughter. She took her place behind her father and started channeling. Duke Rivi watched her proudly. Erica, you've grown up. Adorable father-daughter moment. Very wholesome. Now here's where it gets hilarious. First rotation of second-tier mages went down to rest. Erica stayed. She secretly chugged one of MY mana potions. Full recovery. Kept channeling like nothing happened. Duke Rivi noticed his daughter was still going and got impressed. Her spiritual reserves are incredible. At her age, I was nowhere close. Second rotation finished. Third batch came up. Erica was still there. Another sneaky potion. Another full recovery. The Duke's jaw was approaching the floor. Her mana capacity surpasses most third-tier mages. When did my daughter become this powerful? Third rotation done. Fourth batch arrived. Erica, still standing. Another potion. Still going strong. By now, every third-tier mage on the mountain had noticed the glowing 17-year-old girl who refused to leave. They started pestering the Duke. Rivi, is your daughter a monster? Where does she store all that mana? Seriously, I've never seen a farm animal plow a field this long, let alone a teenager. The Duke was torn between pride and panic. Was she pushing herself to permanent damage? But she looked fine, relaxed even. 5 hours. 5. The very first batch of second-tier mages had already rested, come back for round 2, and there was Erica, still planted behind her father like a magical lighthouse, glowing with power. The returning mages stared at her in disbelief. Does she not need rest? Erica was having the time of her life. She felt like a superhero. Each batch that rotated out, she'd sneak another potion, top off her mana, and keep going. She could practically hear the whispers of amazement around her, and she was loving it. Thank you, Professor Victor's miracle potions. Father is definitely going to be so impressed. She was floating on cloud nine when, Erica, go rest. Now, the Duke's roar hit her like a thunderbolt. She'd never heard her father scream like that. She shrank down like a scolded kitten and shuffled off the mountain with her tail between her legs. But the damage was done to everyone's perception of reality. Her reputation had exploded among the second-tier mages. She's a freak. She was there when I left and when I came back. Her mana reserves rival third-tier mages. Even Victor Clevener might not outlast her. Erica's sharp ears caught every compliment, and she was glowing brighter than any spell. Someone compared her to me, and she practically did a victory dance internally. But then reality caught up. She knew the truth. Without my potions, she would have collapsed after the first rotation like everyone else. Those whispered praises weren't really hers. They belonged to the blue bottles hidden in her pocket. She couldn't even outshine me using my own products. The momentary pride curdled into something bitter. She'd never catch up. Never. Then, another massive roar from the summit. The mountain trembled. Rocks crumbled. Fire rain started falling from the sky, detonating on impact like tiny bombs. The clouds above literally cracked, revealing red-hot fissures in the heavens. Everyone scrambled into emergency mode. And Erica heard the voice again. Louder. Clearer. It hurts. It hurts. Something was suffering up there. And she was certain Victor was there too. She had to get to the summit. She tried asking Gwen. Knight Commander, may I please leave to use the bathroom? No. Zero hesitation. Absolute brick wall. Gwen didn't even blink. Cold, rigid knight who only follows orders. Erica grumbled, stomping back to her spot. She was desperately scheming another escape plan when a hand landed on her shoulder. EP. She jumped like a startled rabbit. It was her father. Duke Rivy's face was stone-cold serious. Sweetheart, give me an explanation. He wasn't asking about the bathroom escape attempt. He was asking about the 5 hours. And Erica, standing there with empty potion bottles hidden in her pockets and guilt written across her face, realized she was about to have a very uncomfortable conversation about where her incredible mana reserves actually came from. Meanwhile, deep underground, I sneezed mid-dodge and almost took a fireball to the face. Someone was definitely talking about me up there. Probably nothing good. I was busy fighting a fire god underground, so I learned all of this secondhand. But honestly, this was better than anything I could have scripted. Erica's father cornered her after the 5-hour magic marathon stunt. She panicked, thinking he'd caught her escape plan. But no. He wanted to know how a second-tier mage had outlasted every other mage on the mountain. Oh, that. She relaxed instantly. I have a secret weapon. What secret weapon could possibly? It's Professor Victor's. The Duke's brain short-circuited. Victor. Victor. The guy who'd publicly humiliated his daughter at her birthday party was now giving her mysterious items? Was that scoundrel trying to seduce Erica with magical gifts? His blood pressure spiked so hard I'm surprised they didn't hear the vein pop from inside the volcano. I'll RIP that boy's head off. Then Erica pulled out a little blue bottle. I bought it from his shop. 1,000 geo each. The Duke deflated instantly. Oh, it was a commercial product, not a romantic bribe. But then the number registered. Wait, how much? 1,000 geo, Erica repeated proudly. The Duke stared at his daughter. His precious baby girl had been chugging 1,000 geo potions like juice boxes for 5 straight hours. He did the mental math and nearly fainted. Deep breaths. She's your daughter. Your biological daughter. You chose to have her. Sweetheart, he said with a smile so forced it could crack glass. Daddy doesn't remember teaching you to waste money. It's not wasting money. Look at you. You're exhausted, right? Your spiritual energy is almost gone. He nodded reluctantly. She was right. Every mage hit this wall eventually. Without spiritual energy, you couldn't channel mana, draw formations, or cast anything. Even with infinite magical power, an empty brain meant an empty spell list. Try this. She popped the cap and handed him a bottle. He stared at the blue liquid with deep suspicion. This looks like industrial waste mixed with food coloring. Just drink it. He downed it like bitter medicine. Flash. Blue light rippled across his body. In one instant, nearly half his spiritual energy surged back. The exhaustion that had been crushing his skull? Gone. Just like that. The Duke stood very still for a moment. He was a 30-year veteran third-tier mage. He understood exactly how impossible what just happened was. There was nothing Nothing in the known world that could restore spiritual energy this fast. He immediately pocketed the empty bottle, pulled Erica close, and whispered urgently, "Do not tell anyone about this. Not now. How many do you have left?" Erica counted on her fingers. Bought 10. Wasted 1 testing at home. Used 4 during the marathon. Father drank 1. So, 4. The Duke grabbed her shoulders. "Keep this secret until we're back in the capital. This kind of thing attracts dangerous people. Then, with the dignity of a powerful nobleman, give the rest to Daddy. Daddy can handle this responsibility." "No way. I spent my allowance on those. I'll double your allowance. Deal." Erica handed over 3 bottles. She would have given all 4, but the Duke insisted she keep 1 for emergencies. Smart man. She was secretly thrilled. "I can just ask Professor Victor to make more when I'm back at school. He'll say yes. Probably. Maybe." The Duke cradled those 3 potions like they were made of diamond and tiptoed away. Erica giggled at how ridiculous he looked. Minutes later, Duke Rivy marched back up the mountain and resumed channeling the massive formation. Alone. The other third-tier mages were still resting below. Duke? Don't you need rest?" He smiled warmly. "I'm fine. Still have plenty of energy. Take your time." The resting mages stared in disbelief. First the daughter stands for 5 hours like she's solar-powered. Now the father comes back fully recharged after a coffee break. Is the entire Ducroix family made of monsters? Meanwhile, Erica was executing phase 2 of her master plan. She'd given the potions to her father specifically to get him out of her way. Now she needed to slip past Gwen. She shuffled up to the Knight Commander, squirming theatrically. "Sister, I really can't hold it anymore. We're all girls here. You understand, right?" She gave Gwen the most pathetically pleading puppy dog eyes imaginable. Gwen paused. Her face turned slightly pink. Oh, she thought Erica meant that kind of situation. The monthly kind. The kind you absolutely cannot deny another woman. "Fine. I'll escort you." Erica's heart soared, then immediately crashed. Gwen was coming with her? Having the strongest knight in the kingdom as a bathroom chaperone was not part of the plan. But she adapted. They found a rock barely big enough to hide behind. Erica asked Gwen to back up. Gwen obliged. She asked Gwen to turn around. Gwen sighed and complied. "Don't look. We're both girls. What's the big? Turn around." The second Gwen's back was turned, Erica drew a teleportation circle on the ground. Blue light flared. Gwen spun around just in time to see Erica stepping into the portal, waving cheerfully. "Tell my father I'll be back safe." Gwen lunged. Too far. Too late. Flash. Gone. Gwen stood there, hand outstretched, grabbing nothing but mountain air. Teleportation. Magic? A second-tier teenager had just outfoxed the kingdom's greatest knight with a fake bathroom emergency. Then it clicked. Where would Erica go? She'd asked about the missing mage at the summit. The mage was Victor. Victor was at the top. Erica had teleported toward the volcano's peak, where I was currently fighting a world-ending monster. Gwen's eyes locked onto the summit. Wind erupted beneath her feet. She launched herself up the mountain at impossible speed. And somewhere deep underground, completely unaware that a 17-year-old girl was teleporting into a war zone because she heard a monster crying in her head, I was still punching a fire god and having the best week of my life. The guest list for my private raid just got bigger. Uninvited. Meanwhile, on the mountain's other side, Erica was having her own adventure. She'd successfully tricked Gwen with the oldest girl code excuse in the book. It's a girl thing, you understand. Watch the Knight Commander blush and look away. Then boom. Teleportation circle, peace sign, gone. The kingdom's strongest knight got outsmarted by a teenager with a fake bathroom emergency. Beautiful. Erica landed on the opposite side of the volcano and started climbing. Smart girl. She didn't teleport to the summit where Gwen would expect. She jumped sideways, putting the entire mountain between them. The higher she climbed, the worse it got. Rocks were exploding from heat. Steam hissed from every crack. Fire monsters started appearing. Flame hedgehogs, lava crabs, things that shouldn't exist outside of a nightmare. She blasted the first one with a water cannon. One shot, dead. That was easy. First time fighting in the wild, and she was feeling invincible. That confidence lasted about 20 minutes before the monsters started getting stronger. The fire element saturating the air was buffing every creature on the mountain. Same species, twice the power. These are way stronger than what the textbooks said. She figured it out quickly. The dense fire energy was supercharging everything. This wasn't a normal eruption. Something was causing this. Eventually, the heat became unbearable. Even her defensive spells couldn't keep up. She was stuck, exhausted, one potion left. Then she looked at that last blue bottle and had an idea. Whatever it was, it sent her moving again. Gwen, meanwhile, was carving through monsters like a blender through fruit, sprinting up her side of the mountain. But even she hit a wall. Literal rivers of lava bursting from cracks in the earth, blocking every path forward. The mountain was bleeding magma. She could only stare at the summit and seethe. Victor, when I find you, down in the sealed dimension, I was having the time of my life. 3 days. Nearly 3 full days of continuous combat. And Gulleton was losing. Vega couldn't believe what he was witnessing. The Calamity's armor was cracked and falling off. Lava, its blood, poured from wounds across its massive body. My spells hammered it from 5 rotating magic circles in the sky simultaneously. After that single hit on day 1, Gulleton never touched me again. Not once. Its attacks looked like slow-motion replays to my enhanced perception. Sometimes I didn't even bother teleporting. I just casually sidestepped a building-sized fireball like I was avoiding a puddle. Vega had given up trying to understand me. If he wins, he's the strongest human I've ever seen. No, even if he doesn't win, he already is. The gap between us was absurd. Gulleton only needed one clean hit to kill me. I needed to hit it thousands of times. The odds were astronomically against me. And I was winning anyway. That's what being a professional power leveler meant. Pattern recognition. Endurance. Perfection through repetition. I'd fought this boss hundreds of times in a game. Now I was doing it for real, and my body was performing at a level my old mouse and keyboard setup never could. Finally, Gulleton's health dropped to 30%. Weakened state. Slower. Dimmer. Its shell stopped glowing. Vega was practically celebrating. It's over. You've basically won, but I wasn't relaxing. My expression turned dead serious. That attack is coming. What attack? The volcano screamed. The ground split apart. Lava stopped flowing. Everything went quiet for one horrible second. Then Gulleton launched itself upward from beneath the magma like a rocket made of fire and hatred. A pillar of flame so massive it threatened to punch through the volcano's mouth and into the sky above. Molten boulders rained down like meteors. The entire sealed dimension was collapsing. Flame severance. Wrath of the Dying. Gulleton's ultimate attack. Its final move. The one that wiped entire server populations in the game. A column of apocalyptic fire designed to destroy everything. The arena, the mountain, and anything living within 50 miles. Vega was dodging falling fire meteors and screaming. Fire calamity, you absolute sore loser. Dodge this? Run from this. I laughed. I was never going to dodge. My eyes blazed blue. Every ounce of mana, all 999,999 points, surged through my body. The magical pressure alone made the entire volcano floor tremble. A phantom castle materialized in the sky above me. Massive, blinding. It looked like it wanted to crush the mountain itself. 3 barrier formations stacked on top of each other, interlocking, weaving together into something that shouldn't be possible for one person to create. The patterns merged at the center and bloomed outward like a divine flower opening, forming an enormous arc of pure magical force hovering between me and the apocalypse above. Vega crashed onto my shoulder, flattened by the gravitational pressure of my own spell. War magic? When did you even set this up? That requires dozens of mages. Every flaming meteor that touched my formation disintegrated instantly. Pebbles against a fortress. Then the fire pillar hit the arc. 2 world-ending forces collided. The sound was so violent it destroyed itself. Pure silence in the center of total annihilation. Shockwaves shattered the mountain walls. Light swallowed everything. Through the chaos, Vega heard me chanting the final words. Magic Imperial Capital. Fall of the Apocalypse Arkansas. White light consumed the world. 1 mage. 1 spell. Against the Calamity's final desperate attack. And I didn't take a single step backward. This was it. The grand finale. 3 days of combat ending in one cataclysmic clash between a professional gamer's accumulated lifetime of skill and a primordial fire god's dying rage. Somewhere above, the real volcano was probably having a very bad day. Gwen was probably furious. Erica was probably lost. The Duke was probably confused. The kingdom was probably panicking. But down here, in this sealed arena lit by the collision of two impossible forces, there was only me, a screaming crow, and the most satisfying boss fight of my entire existence. Hands in pockets energy. From start to finish. I don't remember much after the final clash. Just white light, silence, and then rain. Let me back up. My war magic, the Apocalypse arc, collided head-on with Gulleton's ultimate attack. Two world-ending forces smashing together inside a volcano. The impact literally destroyed sound itself. Pure silence at the center of absolute destruction. And I won. The white light that erupted from the collision punched straight through the volcano mouth, tore apart the black clouds above, and shot into the sky like a divine pillar. Moonlight poured through the gap. Then rain started falling. Magical, cooling rain that extinguished the entire volcano like someone dumping a bucket on a campfire. Every mage, knight, and evacuated villager on the mountain watched the volcano just stop. The lava hardened. The temperature plummeted. The fire died. The crisis was over. Nobody understood what happened. They'd spent days preparing war magic to contain an eruption, and the volcano just quit on its own, like the world's most dramatic false alarm. But I wasn't celebrating. I was barely conscious. The sealed dimension collapsed after Gulleton fell. The impact launched me out of the volcano mouth along with the last burst of energy. My body was covered in cooling lava. My clothes were gone. Every nerve was screaming. I'd pushed past every limit a human body should have. And the first thing I saw when I landed on the crater's edge? Erica, kneeling in the rain, crying. Of course she was here. Because apparently this 17-year-old genius had tricked the kingdom's greatest knight with a bathroom excuse, teleported up the mountain using my mana potion for fuel, fought through fire monsters solo, nearly, got killed by erupting lava, and was now sitting at the summit with burned knees and 0 mana, sobbing her eyes out. This kid was going to give me gray hair. But she wasn't safe yet. Through my blurred vision, I saw it. A fire hedgehog, steaming in the rain, creeping toward her from behind. Fangs out. One lunge from her throat. Erica was completely defenseless. No mana, no energy, no awareness. Just tears. My body was shutting down. Every muscle was screaming to stop. But my hand moved on its own. One spell. A fire snake, burning hot as lava itself, shot from my fingertip and vaporized the hedgehog before it could touch her. Not even ash remained. I thought I taught you, I said, my voice barely working. A mage's first priority is always their own survival. She spun around. Professor, the joy on her face lasted exactly 1 second before she noticed the lava literally dripping off my body. Molten rock, cooling on my skin, hissing in the rain. Then I passed out. Just collapsed right there on the edge of the volcano like a puppet with cut strings. Apparently what happened next was this. Erica panicked. She ran to me and tried to grab my body, and immediately burned her hands because my skin temperature was approximately surface of the sun. She didn't care. She wrapped her palms in the thinnest possible ice spell. Barely anything. She had almost no mana left, and tried to lift me. Her burned legs gave out. We both crashed to the ground. She tried again. Burned worse. Fell again. Again. And again. And again. Each attempt moved us maybe 2 meters. Her hands were getting destroyed. Her legs were failing. She had nothing left. No magic. No strength. No plan. But she kept going. Because I'd saved her, and she was going to save me back or die trying. She hated herself in that moment. Hated her arrogance for coming up here. Hated her weakness for not being able to carry one unconscious man. But she didn't regret climbing the mountain. Because if she hadn't been here, who would have found me? I would have died alone on this crater. So she crawled, dragging my burning body through the rain, 1 agonizing inch at a time. Then a voice spoke. Little girl. Erica froze. Looked left. Looked right. Nobody. Just a one-eyed crow standing on the crater's edge. My pet. The bird she'd fed snacks to at the academy. But something was different. The rain was hammering everything on this mountain, except the crow. Not a single drop touched its feathers. They gleamed like polished obsidian, perfectly dry, as if the rain itself respected this creature enough to avoid it. Its single eye glowed blue, and when it opened its beak, what came out wasn't a squawk. It was a voice. Clear, intelligent, ancient. Do you want to save him? Erica stared at the talking bird. I imagine her brain went through several stages. Confusion, denial, more confusion, brief consideration that she was hallucinating from pain, and finally acceptance that a one-eyed crow was speaking to her in complete sentences. Meanwhile, down on the mountainside, Duke Rivi was having his own crisis. He'd turned around to ask Erica for more mana support and found empty air. His daughter was gone, in the middle of a volcanic emergency. While he was about to launch apocalypse-level war magic that would crush anything on the mountain, he couldn't fire the spell. If Erica was up there, the war magic would kill her instantly. "Stop the formation," he screamed at the other mages. "But the volcano is about to erupt. My daughter is missing." The man chose his child over an entire region without hesitation. That was a father's love, irrational, absolute, terrifying. Then the white light happened. The rain came. The volcano stopped. And everyone stood there, soaking wet, staring at the sky, wondering what on earth just occurred. They didn't need the war magic after all, because one idiot had already handled it. From the inside. Alone. Over 3 days. That idiot was currently face down on a volcano with lava burns covering 80% of his body, being dragged by a crying teenager, while his secret evil god pet bird was about to reveal itself to a stranger. Day 5 of my new life, and I'd already soloed a world boss, caused a national emergency, and passed out in front of my student. Peak performance. I was unconscious for this entire chapter, so everything I know came from Vega's smug retelling afterward. And honestly, it was a lot. Apparently, after I passed out face first on the volcano, Erica was left alone with my body, burned knees, 0 mana, and a talking crow. The talking crow part was new to her. A crow can talk? Vega did his little gentleman bow, wing across chest, very formal, and introduced himself. "I am the evil god, Habika." Erica had never heard that name in her life. The Empire's history books contained 0 mentions of this deity, which honestly tracked. Vega's divine influence mostly consisted of eating my food and getting fatter on my shoulder. "You can call me Vega," he said smoothly. "Now, do you truly wish to save Victor Clevener?" Erica didn't hesitate, didn't ask questions, didn't care that she was talking to a self-proclaimed evil god who looked like an overweight pigeon. She just nodded desperately, like someone drowning and seeing a hand. "Become my follower," Vega said. "Believe in me sincerely, and I'll help you save him." Black magic circles crawled across the ground like living snakes. Dark mist rose around her. Every instinct screamed danger. She agreed instantly. "I'll believe in you. I'll be your follower. Just save him." And just like that, my scheming bird god recruited his first real follower, not through manipulation, not through my clever plans, but because a burned, crying, exhausted girl loved her teacher enough to pledge herself to an unknown deity on a volcano in the rain. Vega was thrilled. The ritual completed in seconds, a flash of dark light, then nothing. No mark. No visible change. Erica looked confused. "That's it." If Vega had teeth, he would have laughed them out. This wasn't a contract like mine. This was just a one-way follower connection. A real contract required paperwork, literally, like the one I'd signed. But Erica didn't need to know that. Then Vega got curious. "Why are you even here? Why did you climb this volcano?" Erica hesitated, then admitted the truth. "I heard the volcano crying. Something inside it was saying it was in pain." Vega's eye widened. She could hear the calamity? She could communicate with Gulleton? That changed everything. Vega immediately understood what Erica was. Something incredibly rare and valuable, even to a god. A girl who could hear elemental calamities speak. Even SHE didn't know how special that made her. Vega was practically vibrating with excitement internally. He'd come to this volcano expecting nothing and walked away with a genuine follower and a girl with abilities that might be 1 in a million. "Can you still hear it?" he asked. "No, nothing now. Of course not. Because I'd beaten Gulleton into forced hibernation. The fire god wasn't dead. Calamities can't truly die as long as magical elements exist. But it was sleeping so deeply it might as well have been in a coma. My war magic had crushed it into rubble inside the volcano. As for why I was covered in lava and unconscious, Vega explained it to me later. It was an injury. Not exactly. In the final moments before Gulleton collapsed, I'd ripped a piece of its magical core essence off its body and forcefully merged it with myself. Because apparently, even while finishing a 3-day solo raid against a world boss, my greedy gamer brain thought, ooh, rare drop. Mine. The lava flowing on my body was the core being absorbed. My own mana was completely drained. Vega's link had been forcibly severed from overuse. And then I'd shoved a massive foreign power source into my empty tank. My body basically blue-screened. Total magical overload shutdown. Not dangerous, though. Just needed a few days of sleep. Like a phone that died at 1% and got plugged into a nuclear reactor. Then Vega heard footsteps. Gwen was coming up the mountain fast. Decision time. If Gwen found a talking crow next to an unconscious Victor and a burned girl, there'd be way too many questions. Vega's cover would be blown. You saved Victor, Vega told Erica. I'll make sure he knows. Until next time, little girl. Then, and this was the part Erica apparently couldn't stop talking about, Vega's body expanded. The chubby little one-eyed crow inflated like a balloon and transformed into a massive black eagle. Giant. Majestic. Terrifying. He grabbed my collar with his beak, spread his enormous wings, and launched into the sky with one powerful flap. Wind blasted the mountaintop. Rocks went flying. And in seconds, we were a shrinking dot against the rainy sky. Erica watched us disappear, kneeling in the rain, whispering my name. Gwen arrived moments later. Too late to catch me. Too late to get answers. She saw the black speck vanishing into the clouds, then looked down at Erica. Burned, broken, smiling weakly. Erica managed one last grin before consciousness left her too. She collapsed face first into the wet ground. Gwen stood there in the pouring rain, holding an unconscious teenager, staring at an empty sky, with absolutely zero understanding of what had just happened. Join the club, Gwen. Join the club. So to summarize my week, I soloed a world boss in 3 days, caused a national emergency, accidentally recruited a follower. For my pet evil god, absorbed a fire deity's magical core, got rescued by my 17-year-old student, and was airlifted out of a volcano by a giant crow. And I slept through the best parts. Classic. The volcano didn't erupt. The villagers celebrated in the rain like it was a holiday. The mages saved us. Thank the heavens. Except the mages didn't save anyone. They knew it. Every single one of them walked back to town in dead silence, unable to accept a single thank you, without choking on guilt. Their warm magic never fired. If the volcano had actually blown, they'd all be dead. The mysterious white light from the summit had done everything. Nobody knew it was me, and I was too busy being unconscious on the back of a giant crow to take credit. Duke Rivy stood in the pouring rain like a statue, staring at nothing, while every other mage packed up and left. Earl Beck, the old white-haired nobleman, gave him a cold farewell. I understand your love for your daughter, Duke, but think about your position before acting recklessly. You'll face consequences in the capital. Translation: you froze the war magic to protect one girl and nearly doomed everyone. People will remember that. The Duke said nothing, just stood there, hollow-eyed, rain hammering his face. Then Gwen appeared through the storm like a silver angel, carrying Erica in her arms. Mission complete, Duke. Rivy's hands were shaking when he took his daughter. This powerful, important man, one of the strongest mages in the kingdom, was crying in the rain because his little girl was hurt, and he couldn't do anything about it. Erica opened her eyes just enough to see him. Dad, I'm back, he broke. Completely. Then he noticed her burns. Severe ones, all over her body. He tried healing magic, barely worked. He was a combat mage, not a healer. He looked around desperately for someone who could help, but every medically trained mage had already left with the army. Gwen hesitated. Then she pulled out something from her belt. A small bottle of blood-red liquid. Dark, almost black at the edges, glowing faintly. My healing potion. The one I'd given her before the trip. She'd never used it. Never even tested it. Had no idea what it actually did. But Erica was running out of time. Burns this severe would leave permanent damage if untreated. Gwen made her choice. Try this, Duke. If anything goes wrong, I take full responsibility. The Duke took it with trembling hands. The color made him pause. It looked like actual blood. Could this really be medicine? Where did you get this? My fiancé gave it to me. Victor Clevener? Yes. She looked away, embarrassed. Giving the Duke medicine made by the man who'd publicly humiliated his daughter wasn't exactly a comfortable moment. The Duke poured it into Erica's mouth anyway. Desperation beats grudges every time. And then, magic happened. Real magic. Erica's burns started healing. Not slowly. Not gradually. Visibly. New skin grew over the wounds like time was rewinding. Fresh, perfect, unblemished. In seconds, every burn on her body vanished completely. The Duke froze. Gwen's jaw dropped. That potion was a game item. In a world where the best healing magic worked like slow medicine, my potions were instant regeneration. Basically a cheat code in liquid form. A potion that could probably bring someone back from the edge of death. Erica's injuries were gone, but she didn't wake up. Her spirit was too exhausted. She finally slept peacefully, free from pain. The Duke carefully placed her in the carriage, then turned to Gwen and bowed deeply. Thank you, Knight Commander. When we return to the capital, I will properly thank both you. And your fiancé. Gwen watched the Duke's carriage roll away into the rain. Then she looked over at the stable where a lone white horse was still munching grass, completely oblivious that its rider had vanished days ago. My horse. The one I'd borrowed from her family's stable. She stared at it for a long time. If you have any conscience left, Victor, come back and ride that horse home to me. It won't die. Not before I see you again. She mounted her own horse, led her knights into the storm, and left. A few days passed. The sun returned. Sancher Town went back to normal, as if the whole near-apocalypse had been a bad dream. But at the stable, trouble was brewing. A gang of thugs had been eyeing my white horse since the crisis ended. Beautiful animal, no owner in sight for days. Easy pickings, right? Hey, old man, that horse is gorgeous. Hand it over, the big leader growled at the stable manager. A knight paid handsomely for me to watch this horse. It's not for sale. Those capital people left days ago. That horse is abandoned. Yeah. Our boss knows a good horse when he sees one. The lackeys chimed in. The manager crossed his arms. Match her price, and it's yours. How much? He held up 5 fingers. 50? Huh. I'll pay 100. The manager shook his head. 500? Silence. 5,000 geo. The thugs exploded. 5,000 for a horse. You're scamming US. Sleeves rolled up. Fist cocked. The manager covered his face, bracing for impact. The punch never landed. Instead, the lead thug heard a scream. His own. A massive hand made of molten lava grabbed him by the torso and lifted him into the air like a rag doll. He dangled there, feet kicking, completely bewildered. His lackeys followed the arm back to its source and went white. Standing behind them was a man in a black coat etched with glowing red patterns, like magma flowing through volcanic rock. A one-eyed crow sat on his shoulder, chattering away. And extending from behind his back was an enormous arm made of solidified lava, casually holding their boss 6 feet off the ground. That was me. Awake, refreshed, and apparently now equipped with lava powers courtesy of the fire god's magical core I'd absorbed mid-boss fight. New ability, giant magma arm. Didn't have that before. Pretty cool. I looked up at the dangling thug with my trademark poker face. That's my horse. Any objections? For days unconscious. Woke up feeling great. First thing I did was save a horse and terrify some idiots. Good morning to me. I threw the thug like a baseball. He hit the ground with a satisfying thud and his buddies scattered like roaches. One word from me, scram, and they were gone. Didn't even look back. Being a notorious villain had perks. I retracted the lava arm back into my coat. Yeah, that was new, and turned to the trembling stable manager. I'm here for my horse. He straightened up, shaking like a leaf, but standing his ground. Prove it's yours. Prove your identity. Respect. This man was terrified, but still doing his job. I liked him. Victor Clevener. The knight who left the horse should have registered that name. He checked his book, nodded frantically, then handed me a money pouch. The knight deposited 5,000 geo for boarding. Here's what's left after feeding costs, 5,000. For horse parking. Gwen had the financial awareness of someone who'd never looked at a price tag in her life. That money could have fed this horse for decades. I pocketed it anyway. Free money is free money. The white horse nuzzled my hand when I walked into the stable. Fat and happy after days of premium dining on Gwen's tab. I mounted up, and Vega immediately started questioning my life choices. You can teleport 100 kilometers now. Why ride a horse? Fair point. After absorbing Gulleton's fire core, I'd broken through to 4th tier. Level 41. Holy Mage territory. My teleportation range was now basically unlimited within the kingdom. 29 years old. Fourth tier mage. In the Empire's entire history, I doubt anyone had done that. But the horse wasn't mine. It was Gwen's family's horse. Borrowed things get returned, I said simply. Vega grumbled, but shut up. Let me catch you up on the upgrades. After beating Gulleton, my experience bar, which I'd been carefully controlling for years, completely exploded. Too much XP from soloing a world boss. Couldn't hold it back. Level 41. HP, 2,000. MP, 15,000. Triple the mana pool. Double the health. And that wasn't even the best part. The fire core I'd ripped from Gulleton gave me its signature ability, fire element solidification. I could turn fire magic into actual physical lava. Shape it, harden it, mold it into anything I wanted. Like, say, a giant arm to pick up bullies. Or a brand new coat. Yeah, about the coat. My favorite wind coat got destroyed during the fight. So I used Gulleton's fire essence to create a new one. Black fabric with glowing red magma patterns flowing through it like living veins. Functionally, it was volcanic armor disguised as fashion. Was this an absurd waste of a divine fire god's power? Absolutely. Did I look incredible? Also absolutely. Strength is temporary. Style is forever. Vega then showed me something interesting. A small hourglass pendant that had appeared in my inventory after I woke up. Item: Exile of Epimetheus. World-class item. Type: single-use consumable effect. Causality disruption. Can convert a specific predetermined causal event in the timeline. A world-class item. The rarest drops in the game, given only for world-class achievements. I'd never gotten one before. Solo killing a world boss for the first time in history? Yeah, that qualified. These items broke the rules of reality itself. One use only, then gone forever. And they were soul-bound. Only the recognized owner could activate them. What is this thing? Vega demanded. He'd been studying it for days and learned nothing. No idea. I lied. You're lying. Prove it. I wish I had that night woman's lie detection ability. Too bad. You're not righteous enough. He wanted to peck my eyes out. I could feel it. Nighttime. I rode into the capital under moonlight and headed straight home. In my study, Leah was waiting. She'd been keeping busy while I was gone, running the potion business, investigating the Duke, managing the territory. The usual. Her elf bodyguard Leon had just finished reporting through the window. Apparently the Duke's butler was confirmed as the one who'd paid for the bandit attack on our caravan. Direct link to Duke Rivy's household. But Leah wasn't concerned about that anymore. The Duke has bigger problems now, she said, smiling coldly in the moonlight. Every mage who went to the volcano is filing complaints against him with the Emperor. They're saying he tried to kill them all. Here's what happened. Duke Rivy, as the War Magic's lead caster, had stopped the formation when he realized Erica was missing. If the volcano had erupted at that moment, every mage on the mountain would have died. The volcano didn't erupt, thanks to me, but the other mages didn't know that. All they knew was the Duke chose his daughter over hundreds of lives. It was just luck the volcano stopped, Leah explained. But what if it hadn't? Those mages would be dead, along with thousands of civilians. Political consequences were inevitable. The Duke's reputation was crumbling. Leah sighed dramatically. Too bad all those mages are busy with politics instead of buying my potions. I wanted to make a fortune before you got back. Then her expression softened, just slightly. Leon had been about to say something. Probably that I wasn't coming back. That I was dead. There's a saying, Leah said quietly. Good people die young, but troublemakers live forever. Victor is definitely the second type. Unless someone drops his corpse at my doorstep, I will never believe he's dead. Right on cue. Leon's elf ears twitched. It's Victor's presence. He's here. Leah's smile bloomed. See? Told you. Leon vanished out the window. Moments later, I walked through the front door, handed the horse to a very surprised servant, and pushed open my study door. Leah was leaning against my desk, arms crossed, grinning. Welcome home. I nodded, walked in, looked left, looked right, sniffed the air. Then I stared directly at her. You were hiding someone in here. Her smile froze, then shattered like dropped glass. Some things never change. I might be a fourth-tier mage now with lava powers and a world-class item, but my greatest ability was still making my sister's blood pressure spike. Good to be home. Victor, do you actually enjoy being yelled at? My mansion echoed with the familiar sound of my sister's fury. The servants outside flinched and whispered to each other. They're fighting again. Classic. Apparently, my first words upon returning home after a week-long near-death experience were not ideal. You were hiding someone in here, was, in hindsight, not the heartwarming reunion Leah had been hoping for. I waited for you this whole time, and the first thing you say is accusing me of hiding people in your study? How small is your brain? I stood there with my poker face, taking the verbal beating like a professional punching bag. Eventually, she ran out of steam and grudgingly explained. It was a subordinate from the territory. She left before you arrived. I'd smelled an unfamiliar feminine perfume when I walked in. I was going to clarify my question, but Leah started screaming before I could finish my sentence. Her rage reflex was faster than my speaking speed, so I just let her vent. If yelling at me made her feel better, I could absorb a few insults. It was basically our love language at this point. Once she calmed down, we got to business. The potion shop wasn't doing well. It didn't explode like you predicted, Leah reported. First day we sold some, but after that, nothing. This surprised me. My marketing strategy was solid. The product was revolutionary. Word of mouth should have done the rest. Then Leah explained what happened while I was underground wrestling a fire god for 3 days. Day 1, Erica bought potions. Great. A famous duke's daughter endorsing our product should have been a marketing goldmine. Day 2, the volcano crisis happened. Every mage in the capital got mobilized to Mount Vesuvius. Our entire customer base literally left town. The only mages left were first-tier nobodies who couldn't afford it anyway, Leah said. And even if they could, it'd be wasted on them. Then after the crisis, all the returning mages got busy filing complaints against Duke Rivi instead of shopping. The entire capital's magical community was consumed by political drama. The emperor himself summoned the duke and every noble mage for a formal hearing, Leah continued. Nobody's thinking about potions right now, so my solo raid accidentally destroyed my own business plan. Beautiful. 3 days of fighting a world boss, and the biggest casualty was my shop's revenue. Leah filled me in on the duke's situation. When he realized Erica was missing on the mountain, he'd frozen the war magic formation. If the volcano had erupted at that moment, every mage would have died. The volcano didn't erupt, because of me, but nobody knew that. So now every surviving mage was furious and demanding the duke's head. Some people say he stopped the formation because his daughter disappeared, Leah scoffed. Which is hilarious logic. Even if the war magic would have killed Erica, a volcanic eruption would have killed her too. Plus everyone else, she was right. The duke's choice didn't even make sense from a purely logical standpoint. War magic kills Erica alone. Eruption kills Erica and hundreds of others and himself. Either way, his daughter was in danger. He chose the option that risked maximum casualties. But I understood why. Love isn't logical. When your child is in danger, your brain stops calculating odds and starts grasping at anything that keeps hope alive. It was stupid. It was selfish. And it was the most human thing I'd seen since arriving in this world. Then Leah dropped the bomb. Oh, by the way, the Emperor's summons includes you too. Hearings tomorrow. Me? Why? Gee, I wonder. Who was the only mage who mysteriously vanished right before the volcano went crazy, right? Of course. I was suspect number 1 in the who almost destroyed a mountain investigation. Because nothing says innocent like disappearing into a volcano for a week. Leah headed for the door, yawning. Sounds like you've already got a plan. I'm going to bed. Then she paused. I'll lock my door. Don't come knocking in the middle of the night just because you missed me. Slam. Do I really look like the kind of guy who creeps around knocking on girls' doors at night? Actually, I did do exactly that to Gwen. So fair point. After Leah left, Vega spoke up with something that had been bugging me. If the volcano had erupted, everyone would have died. The Duke, the mages, the villagers, everyone. Except Erica, I raised an eyebrow. She can communicate with calamities, Vega continued. If Gulleton had broken free, it might not have killed her. The fire wouldn't have touched someone it could speak to. This was news to me. In the game, Erica was a genius who'd break my youngest third-tier mage record 2 years from now. Important NPC with a big future. But talking to elemental disasters? That was never in any storyline. I'm curious, Vega mused. What exactly did the Duke have a child with? Have you ever seen Erica's mother? I went completely still. He was right. In all my hundreds of playthroughs, no player had ever encountered Erica's mother. Not in cutscenes, not in lore books, not in background text. 0 mentions. A Duke's wife should be public knowledge, yet she was a complete ghost. Dead. Missing. Something else entirely? I had no data. Not enough to even guess. Vega enjoyed watching me be confused for once. Then he shifted topics. So tomorrow, the Emperor's hearing. Both you and the Duke are summoned. Nobody's going to help either of you. What's your plan? I looked out the window. Moonlight on my face. Political crisis brewing. A Duke about to lose everything. An entire magical community baying for blood. The worst case for the Duke is losing his title and being exiled, I said. That's without my intervention. Vega's eye gleamed. You want to help him? It's called delivering coal in a snowstorm. Help someone when they're desperate, and they'll never forget the debt. My eyes narrowed with the calculating gleam of a merchant spotting a bargain. The Duke was about to hit rock bottom, and I was going to catch him on the way down, not out of kindness, but because a grateful Duke was worth infinitely more than a ruined one. Tomorrow, I'd walk into the Emperor's palace as the prime suspect in a volcanic disaster and walk out as, well, we'd see. But I had a world-class item, a fire god's powers, 4th-tier magic, and a poker face that could bluff the devil himself. The hearing didn't stand a chance. Morning in the capital. Carriages lined up like a funeral procession heading to the palace. Every noble mage in the kingdom, summoned by the Emperor. 2 defendants on today's menu, Duke Rivi and yours truly. I wasn't there yet, but let me tell you what happened before my entrance. The Duke arrived alone. Every mage at the palace gates stared at him like he'd personally insulted their mothers. Nobody greeted him. Nobody spoke to him. Even his old friend Earl Beck just shook his head sadly from a distance. Then the palace doors opened, and out walked the second prince, silver-haired, late 20s, dressed like royalty's fashion catalog. Everyone bowed. But instead of going inside, the prince pulled the Duke aside for a private chat, led him to a personal chamber. Very cozy, very suspicious. I might be able to help with your situation, the prince whispered. Translation, I smell blood in the water, and I'm here to make a deal. The prince's offer was simple and disgusting. Marry Erica to him. Duke becomes royal family by marriage. Emperor gets a reason to pardon him. Everyone wins. Except, Erica, the 17-year-old girl being traded like a business asset. The Duke listened. Then he shattered the prince's teacup with pure magical pressure without moving a finger. Every guard in the room drew their swords. The prince didn't flinch, just brushed porcelain dust off his hands and smiled coldly. This is the palace, Duke. You wouldn't want your daughter to lose her future because of your temper. The Duke stood up, released the pressure, then asked a devastating question. Your Highness, I've watched you grow up. In 29 years, have you accomplished anything on your own? Ice. Pure ice. The prince's smile froze solid. You're clever, the Duke continued. You know how to use people, but you're not strong. Everything you have comes from your bloodline. Without it, you're nothing. The prince was seething. And who's better than me? Who's more qualified? Then he stopped, because he already knew the answer. I suggest you say that to the head of House Clevener. To his face, the Duke said with visible contempt. The prince exploded. He's just a viscount, and he's dead. He disappeared in that volcano. Everyone knows it. The Duke looked at him like he was watching a child throw a tantrum. Dead? He laughed. Actually laughed. In my eyes, all your royal pride isn't worth half of his talent. Then he walked out without looking back. The prince smoothed his silver hair, took a deep breath, and headed to the throne room. Let's see how calm the Duke stays when everyone turns on him. The throne room was packed. Knights in heavy armor lined the walls. Mages filled the floor. The Emperor, Oberli's soul, 8th ruler of the Gulleton Empire, sat on his throne looking ancient and exhausted. He was only 60 but looked 90. The weight of a kingdom does that. Duke Rivi knelt at the front. Alone. No allies. No defenders. Gwen stood near the throne as the Emperor's personal guard. She scanned the crowd for me. Not there. She couldn't find me anywhere. He didn't come back, she thought, and something in her chest tightened. The Emperor looked down at his old friend with eyes full of pain. Rivi, did you stop the magic formation while the volcano threatened to erupt? Yes. No hesitation. No excuses. They say you tried to kill every mage present, along with the civilians below, all for your daughter. What is your explanation? I have none, Your Majesty. The Emperor closed his eyes, sighed so deeply it sounded like his soul was leaving. These two were old friends, war buddies. The Emperor had hoped to protect his loyal companions in his final years. But this had damaged the crown's credibility. If he didn't punish the Duke harshly, Every other noble would lose faith in royal justice. Rivi, understand me. Forgive me. He was about to deliver the verdict. And that was my cue. Every knight outside the throne room simultaneously drew their swords, not at anyone, but in alarm, because a massive spiral of fire erupted from thin air right outside the doors. Heat blasted into the chamber. Mages shielded their eyes. When the flames faded and everyone could see again, there I was, standing in the doorway, new black coat with glowing red lava patterns. One-eyed crow on my shoulder, not a scratch on me, looking like I'd just stepped out of a movie poster. Gwen's eyes went wide. Victor? Every mage in the room turned to stare. The man they'd all assumed was dead, vaporized inside a volcano, was casually standing at the entrance of the Emperor's throne room like he'd just popped out for coffee. I looked at the Emperor. I didn't kneel, just gave a polite bow. Apologies, Your Majesty. I'm late. Silence. Complete. Total, breathtaking silence. The Duke. The Prince. The mages. Gwen. Every single person in that room was staring at me with some variation of shock, disbelief, or existential crisis. The dead man walked in, and he looked great doing it. I walked into that throne room like I owned the place. Fire teleportation. Lava-veined coat billowing. Crow on shoulder. Maximum drama. Apologies, Your Majesty. I'm late. The room went dead silent. Then chaos. Isn't he dead? He was supposed to die in the volcano. One brave idiot pointed at me and screamed, "You criminal! How dare you show your face here?" I turned and looked at him. Just looked. But I pushed a little magical pressure into that gaze, the kind that makes you feel like you're standing inside a volcano. His face went white, then red. Then he started choking on air like a fish on dry land. I released him and turned back to the Emperor without a word. He tried to cause the eruption. He's a fugitive, the mage sputtered behind me. I came because the Emperor summoned me, I said coolly. You keep asking why I dare show up. Are you saying you have more authority than His Majesty? That shut him up fast. The Emperor, old, tired, sitting on his throne like the weight of the world was literally on his shoulders, called me forward. Victor, did you cause the volcanic disturbance? Every neck in the room craned forward. Gwen was standing beside the throne, her heart of justice already active, watching me like a hawk. Time for the nuclear option. Total honesty. The volcanic disturbance was indeed caused by me. Collective gasp. Gwen's heart sank. I could see it in her eyes. Victor is not lying, she announced. The room erupted. Mages screaming, cursing, pointing fingers. I was a murderer, a criminal, a monster. I let them rage for exactly 3 seconds. But the person who stopped the eruption was also me. Dead. Silence. Gwen's eyes went wide. She checked again. Victor is not lying. Every brain in the room short-circuited simultaneously. Duke Rivi, still kneeling on the floor, slowly raised his head for the first time. I explained everything. Truthfully, a massive fire beast called Gulleton was sealed beneath the volcano. If left alone, it would break free in 18 months and cause a catastrophe that would make this near eruption look like a campfire. I went in, fought it, and put it back to sleep. You defeated this beast alone? The Emperor asked. I placed my hand on my chest and bowed. Mission accomplished. The mages refused to accept it. Lies. How could a volcano contain a monster? Even if it did, a third-tier mage couldn't possibly. We all saw that energy. No human could produce that kind of power. Definitely not a third-tier mage like Victor. Then the second prince stepped forward with his silver hair and snake smile. He'd been waiting for this moment. Lady Gwen, you and Victor have an engagement, correct? Gwen nodded, confused. And you personally arranged for Victor to accompany the knights to the volcano? He disappeared for a week, and you claim you don't know what he did. The implication was clear. Gwen was covering for her fiancé. Her lie detection couldn't be trusted. The mages latched onto it like drowning men grabbing driftwood. She's his fiancé. Of course she'd lie for him. We almost got fooled by these two. Who can verify that Gwen herself is telling the truth? Gwen tried to defend herself, but she was a knight, not a politician. Words were not her weapon. Her eyes went red with frustration. She couldn't even form a complete sentence against this swarm of verbal attacks. I watched my fiancée, the strongest knight in the kingdom, a woman who could kill every person in this room, nearly reduced to tears by a bunch of old men with sharp tongues. That's when I decided the talking portion of today's program was over. So, Your Highness, I said, still facing forward, not bothering to look at the prince. You're questioning my strength? The prince smiled confidently. You're a talented mage, Victor, but fabricating a mythical beast to cover your crimes? You're just a third-tier mage. Let's not get carried away. Every mage in the room nodded along. Their pride wouldn't allow them to believe a fellow third-tier mage could do what they couldn't. If they couldn't stop a volcano, neither could I. Simple ego math. Fine, I said. Then I vanished. Every eye in the room went wide. Where did? A pillar of flame erupted from where I'd been standing, shooting toward the ceiling. Complex magic circles materialized above the prince's head, dozens of them, rotating, interlocking, so intricate that every mage in the room tried to read the patterns and couldn't. What kind of formation is that? The patterns are too complex. I can't decipher a single line. The temperature in the throne room skyrocketed. Walls started smoldering. The stone floor cracked from heat. Then they saw me. Floating above them all, wreathed in flame, my body merged with a towering fire construct that touched the ceiling. A blazing colossus burning like a miniature sun. Gulleton's power, channeled through my body, manifested as a titan of living magma. I looked down at the second prince. Just looked. The same way I'd looked at that mouthy mage earlier, except 1,000 times worse. The gravitational pressure of my magical aura pinned him in place. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't move. You said my strength wasn't enough? A tiny flame spontaneously ignited on his royal clothing. Smoke curled upward. He couldn't even feel it. The ambient temperature was so extreme his senses had stopped registering individual heat sources. Gwen leaped in front of the Emperor, using her enchanted armor to shield him from the radiant heat pouring off my body. Then let's settle this with strength. Magic circles hummed. The sound drowned out every voice in the room. Formations merged, pulsed, grew. The air itself vibrated. One mage looked up, squinted through the blinding light, and screamed the words that rewrote every assumption in that throne room. That's fourth-tier magic. Third-tier Victor Clevener was gone. The man floating above them, burning like a god, was a holy mage, 29 years old. Fourth tier, the youngest in the Empire's history. And he was very, very annoyed.